everyone. I'm very happy to see you tonight. It's November 14th. I'd like to call this commission meeting to order, and if you would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand for 10 seconds of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. And please quiet your cell phones if you can. With that, Lauren, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Husband?
Here.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Here.
Vice Mayor Bond?
Here.
Mayor Kennedy?
Here. Thank you. Our first order of business is we will be having a swearing in of a new city commissioner. And her name is Jan Wilson. And with that, I'm going to ask the city clerk to come forward. Jan, would you please come forward?
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Janet W. Wilson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
of the state of Florida,
of the state of Florida,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and of the charter of the city,
and of the charter of the city,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of City Commissioner
the duties of City Commissioner
of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
of which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
All right.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a very favorite night for me. Since I've been mayor, we started to honor our veterans, so we always ask if any veteran would like to come in during the week of Veterans Day, that I'd like to have you come forward at this time. And while you're doing that, we're going to have you stand up here with me. I started this in honor of my dad, who has only been gone about 4 years now. He lived to be 96 and a half. But the important part of that is my dad served in the Battle of the Bulge. He was in the Army, and he saved 7 of 11 men and is a decorated war hero. And he wrote his biography about his years in the war, and he always, the 4 children, my siblings and I, he always made it a huge point that we should honor our veterans and remember them as often as we can. So today we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 15. I'm so excited. So what I like to do is I ask them their name.
John Becker.
And tell me a little bit about your service.
I was Army for 21 plus years, primarily reserve. I did do a obligatory deployment to Iraq and survived that and made it home safely.
And how long have you lived in Indian Rocks Beach?
We've lived here since 2016.
Okay. Well, I'm going to, will you hold this while I do this? Come over here. Thank you. I am going to pin you from the city of Indian Rocks Beach. It is my great honor. and I am grateful for the service that you gave our country and the fact that you live in Indian Rocks Beach with us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. And what is your name, ma'am?
I'm Terry Becker.
And you're the wife?
I am a spouse, yes.
And tell me about your service.
United States Army National Guard, and was active duty for deployment to Iraq and Kuwait as well.
Very good. How long have you been back? Or how long have you lived in Indian Rocks Beach?
8 years now, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know Terry very well, and I want to thank you so much for your service, and grateful that we all know you and that I know you as well as I do.
We're thankful that you guys are doing this. The city, it's awesome.
Oh, I can do it, yeah. There we go.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Joe Massoni. I spent 4 years in the Army.
How long, where do you live now?
I live in Indian Rocks Beach.
Beach,
I live on
I-
12th Avenue.
Right.
I've been here since 1985.
Thank you, Joe. What did you do in the Army?
I was an infantryman.
Infantryman.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your service, and I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're here tonight.
Thank you very much.
very, very much. What is your name?
My name is Denise Hausberg.
And what did you,
I was in the U.S. Army for 3 years, and what I did is I learned to drink beer and swear.
and how long have you been in Indian Rocks Beach?
I've been here since 2016.
36.
Denise, I want to thank you not only for your service, and I'm grateful for your friendship, but I also thank you for your public service on the commission. Thank you for serving.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what is your name?
I'm Jeffrey Davidson. I served from 1987 to 1995 United States Army Reservist. When I graduated high school, I had just turned 17. I was too young to get in a fire academy. So I thought, what better way to spend my next year but to serve my country. And I went away for training for about 8 months, and I came back and started a fire academy, and I finished out my 8-year contract with the reserves. And thankfully, it was peacetime at the time. And here I am.
Hey. And you live in?
I live in Bel Air Buffs. I do.
And if, in case any of you don't know it, this is our fire chief, just so you know. Jeffrey Davidson. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
It's not working.
No, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
My name's Earl Wertheim. I was in the military back in the 60s in Vietnam. I was a missile battery commander in Germany, and I've been living in Indian Rocks Beach for 5 years.
Okay. Well, I thank you for your service. I am grateful that you're here tonight with us. And happy that you live in Indian Rocks. Thank you. And you are?
My name is Christopher Hussein. I was in the Marine Corps in Infantry. I was deployed on the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit. And I've been my 4 years.
You did your 4 years. And where do you live now?
I live in Seminole.
And you are one of our firefighters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I thank you for your service, and I am grateful that you're part of our fire department, and I'm grateful that I got to meet you. Thank you. Thank you. And you are?
Kavar service.
Yes. And what service were you in? What military service?
I was Marine Corps infantryman.
And how long were you in?
4 years.
4 years. And where do you live now?
Currently live in Port Richey, Pasco County.
Okay, and you are a new member of our fire department. I'm going to screw up your name, but we're going to get it right, or we're going to be here all night. Kavaris. Thank you for your service, and I am very grateful that you are here with us in Indian Rocks Beach, and thank you for being with us. Okay,
Hello.
and you are?
Joshua Ramos.
And what service were you in?
I was in the United States Air Force.
For how long?
20 years.
20 years. And you live
I live in Valrico.
Del Rico? I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for being a sheriff and protecting us here in Indian Rocks Beach and wherever you have to go. And there you go, there goes one. Would be the sheriff. And I am grateful every day that you are in harm's way, that you're here another day, and that you're here protecting all of us. We all appreciate you. Thank you. And what is your name?
My name is Penny Pecoraro. I'm retired U.S. Navy. I joined right out of high school, was stationed in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Norfolk, Virginia, San Diego, California.
How long were you in?
15 and a half years.
And you live in?
Indian Rocks Beach.
Absolutely. So in case you don't know who Penny is our new code enforcement officer who's not so new anymore, Frank White. Being with us. Oh. Hi, my name is Mary Miller. I was 9.5 years Air Force as a medic, and then I'm going on my 3rd year as an Army Reservist, switched over as a combat medic, and I served on the fire department as well. How long were you in? You're still in? I'm still in currently in the Army Reserves. Mary Miller, one of our fire women. I am very grateful that you're with us. I appreciate that you're a woman and that you are in fire. That you chose that field, and thank you for your service, and thank you for being in Indian Rocks Beach and taking care of us too. Yes, and your name?
My name is Aaron Flannery.
Aaron, what service were you in?
So I served in both the Florida Army National Guard as well as the U.S. Coast Guard.
Okay, and how long were you in?
Total 10 years in service.
Aaron is a new fireman with us, and I'm so happy that you're here in Indian Rocks Beach with us, and I want to tell you how grateful that we are that you're with us, and thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad I got this.
I'm all wet.
That's okay.
John Thayer. I did 10 years in the Coast Guard, mostly running small boats, mostly at reserve time. 10 more years in the Navy on amphibs out of Pac Fleet in San Diego. And so retired back to here in 2007, with 20 years retired boatsman chief.
John, thank you for your service. I'm very happy that you live in Indian Rocks Beach.
Me too.
And grateful too. We're grateful that you're here. Thank you very much. What's your name?
Skip Burks from the United States Air Force.
Right, and Skip, what service were you in?
Navy Reserve.
Navy Reserve. How long were you in?
I did the full 6 years, 18 months of active duty.
Okay. Tell everybody how long you've been in Indian Rocks Beach.
Since June of 1957.
Thank you for your service, and I'm grateful. So thank all of you shot with
I
everybody.
think she dropped that, picked another one up.
Oh. But yours is still on there. Oh, can we get a couple in the front? I don't know.
It's scooch in.
Yeah, can we come in? Can you get everybody?
That's an apple. It'll work. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. And one more You got it? Yeah, okay. So this is my friend Joe McCall. He's been a vice mayor, commissioner. He's one awesome commissioner. I love him. And I want to share you his resume. In 2011, he moved here to IRB, started an event volunteer with the Homeowners Association, became a board member, and ultimately the president of the Homeowners Association from 2015 to 2020. During that time, he and his wife Tammy opened Beachside Fresh Market. Even though there were some very long hours, they made it work and met half the town. Those relationships are still going strong today. For the past 7 years, he returned to the financial service industry, his longtime career. He served a term on the Indian Rocks Planning and Zoning, his first education into the inner workings of government, and ultimately served the last 3.5 years here on the City Commission. And I will tell you, there couldn't be a finer commissioner, did his job, read his agendas, always had great questions, and we love him. This is plaque, and I hope it's going to go in a place of honor. It says, "Making a Difference, Joseph McCall, working together, your community involvement, volunteer spirit, and dedicated service as a commissioner to the City of Indian Rocks Beach is greatly appreciated." Great. Awesome.
I just want to, on behalf of the team of employees of the city, and as my role as city manager, I want to thank you for your service. You know, when you resign, what happens is we pull your picture off the wall. So that's in the bag. And one of the things y'all may not know about Joe, Joe is a poor golfer just like I am. So there's some golf balls in here that you can lose like I do.
Oh, that I can practice. Wonderful. Yeah. Beautiful. But just real quick, because you probably have a long meeting, again, thank you to staff for putting up with me and my patience, your patience, and the commission, and especially Randy Mora for all of my questions. It's been an education. Definitely won't miss it, and we'll see you out on the street, I guess.
We're going to take a picture with you with the commission.
Okay. On the street.
Don't say the car, but
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy. See you in a bit.
Joe, you're not staying for your 3 minutes?
I'll be back for that.
Okay, report of the Sheriff's Department, if you'd like to come forward at this time.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Thank you for your time. I'm Corporal Christie, Pounds County Sheriff's Office. I'm one of the supervisors that works the streets out here. I apologize, I'm working off a laptop right now. I just got these statistics on the drive down here, so I'm kind of just going over them a little bit. I did a little research on the way in. So for the month of October, overall everything was lower. There was 2 burglaries. One of them was closed with an arrest. The other one was 2 in open shed. It was just a stolen bicycle that was just left on the side of the house, basically. Let's see here. Total, there was 19 people arrested in the city. And there were 759 total events with a total of 1,023 units responding. Most of those events were traffic stops and self-initiated activity, direct patrols, house checks, things as such. Nothing major really. There was an increase in crashes, but I think that's to be expected with the snowburst coming back and traffic has been a lot worse lately from traffic noticed. Now it's with some rain. So they issued a total of 17 parking citations, and I think it was somewhere around 70 or something warnings. 183 traffic warnings. I'm sorry, that was 17%. That was 43 traffic parking citations. I apologize. 183 regular warnings, and let's see here, 25 citations, traffic citations. The most cited area was at the park across the street, 1701 Gulf Boulevard, people access there. So that's really the report is really nothing significant. Like I said, 2 burglaries, and one's closed and one's pending forensics, and hopefully be closed too. So.
Any questions? Well, I see a spike in assaults.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was looking at that back there. That's mostly domestic, like personal issues and like things like that. Nothing crazy off the wall, or bar fights or nothing like that. It was mostly domestic situation. One of those is a battery assault on a
Is there alcohol involved?
Probably most of them, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, based on my experience. But yeah, one of them was an assault, a battery on a deputy, and then the other ones were just mostly domestics. I was looking back there at them. I didn't see anything stuck out as, any kind of problem or any kind of pattern or anything like that. Just simply just domestics and people having problems. So.
I noticed in some other communities, I just wanted to ask you that there's been a spike in breaking into cars or cars that are open, and people, how is it here? I haven't heard anything here.
I said there's only 2 burglaries all month.
Okay.
And I think I had last month here, so last month there was 1 burglary. Oh, I'm sorry, month prior to that, so September was 1 burglary. Last month it was 2 burglaries. And one was a vessel and one was a open, like outdoor conveyance. So
I just want to remind the public.
Oh, yes.
It has spiked in other communities, so to make sure that you don't leave your wallet, your money, credit cards, lock your doors up, just because we're doing well, but I did hear there was a spike in some other communities. The other things that I want to say is that I was at a meeting where the sheriff was, and he said that actually crime has gone down over 50% throughout Pinellas County, so that's great news for us. So I just wanted to add that. So thank you. Thank you for coming up here.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
I'm going to have Chief Jeff Davidson come up for the Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue.
Good evening, everyone. Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief for Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. We're proudly serving in Rocks Beach. I'm here to give you the monthly report for October of 2023. And I know you have a long meeting, so I thank you for giving me the time to speak tonight. Last year, we recognized that we had a need for additional firefighters and paramedics for Pinellas Suncoast, and we could not afford to do that. And we submitted to FEMA a grant for 4 additional firefighters, and we got awarded that grant a few months ago. It was a 3-year award for a total of $1.1 million, 100% paid for 4 additional firefighters. And we started hiring, and we completed that. So I wanted to be able to introduce them. I know 3 of them are here tonight, so if I could have them in, just ask them to come on up. But all my staff that are here tonight, they don't get to be at these meetings very often, are very busy. But if they would all please come up. Yeah. So we were able, we now have a total of 48
firefighters, paramedics, and my administrative staff. So of the 4 additional hires, these 3 gentlemen right here, you met Aaron Flannery, right? And one of the reasons that he came to us is because of our outstanding water rescue and marine program. And he can tell you in the Coast Guard, he was a rock star, he's a boatswain's mate, and he's an expert in water rescue. And I see him down the road leading our water rescue team throughout the county. So we're very fortunate to have him here. He had some other job offers, and he held out because he wanted to come here. And so we're grateful to have him. And this is Kavar Service, 4-year Marine. You met him already. He's a seasoned DMT. They're all going to be going to paramedic school starting next year. And also a Marine, but he's also a jiu-jitsu expert, so don't mess with him.
Glad I know that now.
Christopher Hussain's also a Marine. He started together. These 2 young men actually went to fire academy together. So they're going to be lifelong friends and family, as we all are here. And we're very grateful to have Christopher. He's going to be starting paramedic school next year as well. Next to him, we have long-term veteran Ryan London. Ryan is getting ready to take his lieutenant's exam. He's an acting lieutenant. He drives and pumps the fire trucks and operates all the equipment and the ladder trucks. We're very lucky to have Ryan. You know Mary Miller. She's currently in paramedic school, and I have to tell you, of course, she's #1 in her class, because that's Mary Miller, right? She's top of her class. She'll be graduating December, and then taking the National Registry exam. So we're very lucky. This year, she was also awarded the Fire Chiefs Values Award at our annual ceremony. And then you have Doug Howard, who's been here. How long have you been here, Doug?
9.5 years.
9.5 years, almost 10 years. He's getting ready to take his lieutenant's exam as well. He's helping to train these young men and women, carry on our traditions, and keep them safe at night. You know, we all get to go home at night, and these men and women are here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So wanted to introduce our new hires, but reintroduce our other employees as well. So thank you for letting me have that time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you.
One other thing to tell you I'm very proud of is we have 48 personnel now, and 12 of them, that's 25%, are former or active military. And I think that pretty much leads pretty much anywhere, 25% of your employees to be veterans. I'm very, very proud of that. So having the 4 additional firefighters, the suppression unit that is in Indian Shores is now fully staffed. There was only 2 firefighters on there before, and it could not operate as a suppression unit. It was a specialty unit only. It had paramedics, it had lighting, it had air, but now it's fully functional. That's going to increase our ISO rating, which is a project that we're starting in December. It's about a year-long project, but we're going to move this fire department up to a Class 1 fire department. And that's going to help everybody. Lower insurance rates and things like that are some of the benefits that come out of that. But the coverage that you're going to have for fire and rescue services is already been greatly improved. We have our main biggest fire station is on the mainland, and that's where we're going to build an emergency operations center. There's the 2 stations that we currently have on the beach we have to evacuate during a hurricane. So that station is underway. The advertisement for it went out on Sunday, and it's going to be 30 days, and we'll be taking bids on that station. And there's another one to be going out in 2 weeks. Same project, just a different type of bid. And then we'll evaluate those, and we're hoping to be under contract in January and breaking ground around April or May. So we'll have a brand new fire station, hurricane-resistant fire station there. We're very close to finalizing purchasing the property, the northern end of Indian Rocks Beach, for an additional fire station. We should have that done, some meetings currently, and some meetings in January. We should have it finalized hopefully by March, and then we're going to be moving forward and building a new fire station there. We've been working with the county to incorporate an additional unit. And what we want to have here for the beaches is a transport-capable rescue. As you know, right now, the private ambulance company does the transports, and a lot of the times our paramedics have to assist them because it might be a critical patient,
and they're very busy, so we want to have that ability to transport, and having a transport-capable rescue will do that. We wouldn't transport all the time, but in certain circumstances, we'd be able to get you to the hospital much faster. So the plan that's going to be proposed to the county is that we start as a peak time unit. We'll have a rescue here on the weekends, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday as well on a holiday. And when that station is built, it'll be, which take about 2 years, then it'll be full-time every day. So that's the plan that's going to be proposed. We're very confident it's going to be accepted. I'm going to legislative session this year. We already started that process, and my first session is in January. We met with State Representative Kimberly Burfield, and she's sponsoring appropriations request for us. We have our headquarters, where my office is, 304 First Street in Rocks Beach. That building is 58 years old. It's the original fire station, and it's not hurricane resistant, it's not ADA compliant, it's not a modern fire station, it's not a healthy fire station. So she's sponsoring appropriations for us this year, and she's requesting $7 million for us to renovate or rebuild that fire station. So we're very thankful for that. October, we had a slower month for emergency responses to Indian Rocks Beach. There were only 52 emergency responses, which included 8 fire calls and 43 for emergency medical services. Our firefighters also attended your awesome Halloween event, and they had, I think it was the best booth at the Taste of Indian Rocks Beach. So, you got to taste their chili. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Also in October, they had 592 fire training hours and 179 medical training hours for a total of 771 training hours for October. So aside from they run over 4,000 calls a year, and there's mandatory training requirements. So in October, they had 771. Every firefighter is required to have over 200 hours of training per year. So that's what they're doing in their spare time. If you can call it spare time, but they're constantly training and or doing public education and things of that nature, fire prevention. So they're very busy. And lastly, we want to wish everybody a blessed and safe Thanksgiving season. And remember that the most common cause of residential fires is what? Turkey. It's unattended cooking. The most common cause of residential kitchen or residential fires is from unattended cooking. So, keep a fire extinguisher nearby or 2, and don't hesitate to call 911 after you get your family out of the residence. All right. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for the chief? Hearing none. Thank
No.
you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Next we have Pinellas County Emergency Management. John Bishop will come forward on the Emergency Beach Restoration Project for the commission to ask him some questions at this time.
Good evening.
Hi,
Thank you for
John.
having me.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm Dr. John Bishop, Pinellas County Coastal Management, and I'm going to give you a brief update on the Emergency Dune Project. So, as you know, back in August, Idalia hit about 100 miles offshore, and we had some of the worst erosion in the state. Our preliminary numbers from our consultant is Santee lost about 470,000 cubic yards of sand. So, for scale, we put 1.3 out there during the last project. Project previous to that, we put about 1 million. So it's about half of the sand that we would put out in a nourishment project. And that was on year 5, and we usually nourish on year 6. So it stacked up to be pretty bad erosion. So the Indian Rocks Beach segment, we began monitoring for this project on October 26th. We expect the end date for this project to be December 3rd. The contractor is substantially complete with placing sand. They've pretty much placed all the sand, graded the sand, they're just restoring some of the accesses. The COs should come back in, they'll be planting those on November 27th through December 3rd timeframe, but once they're done, we should be able to open the beaches back up. So largely depends on how long it takes them to plant the COs. And that should be the last stage of the project. The dune design was a 10-foot dune, 10-foot elevation, and it had 4-to-1 slopes on the seaward and landward edges. The volume, I don't have that memorized, so give me a second here. On Indian Rocks Beach, we put on the north segment almost 35,000 tons of sand, and on the south segment about 12,000 tons of sand, which equates to roughly together about 35,000 cubic yards. Now, we do expect there to be some erosion from that dune. As we know, we have a very small footprint to work within, so we really had to work with what we had. It was an emergency, so we had to fit what we could within the footprint. We do expect some sand to erode from the seaward edge during the coming winter fronts and next hurricane season, but that should become part of the beach and help to widen the beach, sort of as a help to the nourishment.
So when the planning of the COs is complete, will the county place signs and markers to encourage the public to stay off of the?
Yeah, we'll be, as they go and they plant the COs, we'll be marking off where the residents have existing accesses, where those accesses intersect the dune, and we'll be marking off 5-foot wide areas for them to leave bare. Those will be sort of the designated walkover areas. And we will be placing signage along the dunes to say, please keep off the dunes.
Okay, is there an enforcement process if people don't stay off of them? Because we don't have that in our city, so how would that work, or?
I don't know if the county has an ordinance for actual enforcement of that.
Maybe we can find out.
Yeah, I know that there's some ordinances. We don't have an actual dune ordinance, but I know that there is some floodplain dune ordinance. I'm just not sure how that intersects.
So you'll be watering the dunes, correct?
Yeah, there'll be periodic watering.
So can you give me?
Well, we've been watering in advance of the COs, and then because it is mined sand, it's not coming in hydraulically, it's not all full of moisture. We've been watering it in advance, and then we're watering it on an as-needed basis after that. We're just having people go out and check the COs periodically. We don't want to overwater because they are a dune vegetation. They're used to a dry climate, and they have a 90-day warranty on them with the installer, so we don't want to do too much to them. We want to make sure that we're in line with what they would want, otherwise we could void the warranty. If the plants don't make it, they can come in and replace them.
So in saying that, how long do you intend to go out, and what would be the end period as far as watering, the 90 days?
We haven't assessed that yet.
So I know that there's discussion of a complete beach nourishment project. Where's that going? Can you give us any updates on that?
We're in the process of, we've selected a contractor. It hasn't been gone to the board yet, and we're in the process of scoping out the project.
So one of the things that a lot of the citizens have brought up and asked is that it's higher, the sand, okay? And so when I did speak to Kelly back, she said that the idea was to put the sand down and then to come back and then to do contouring and spreading the sand. So is there going to be more of that? Where are we at in that process?
That has been contoured.
It has.
It has been contoured. They placed the sand, it's at 10 feet elevation, and they've graded it to 4-to-1 slopes on the east, on the landward and seaward edge of it.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Any questions? John, thank you so much for coming today. Appreciate you, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you all for having me. You know where to find me if you have any questions.
Yes. Yeah, I do know where to find you. Thank you. Okay. With that, we're going to go to public comments. 3-minute time limit per speaker. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern that they may have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole. not directed to any individual city commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the city commission. Hi. Hi. State your name and address.
Lee Wilkerson, 490 Harbor Drive North. Moved there in year 2000. And regarding the dunes, you know, some of our dunes held up. I know they got cut away, but it's pretty good proof that the planting and the age of the roots really worked. So I'm glad we're continuing with that. Two things. One, the vacation rental ordinance, I know is having a good effect, and a portion of it was aimed toward beach properties, and I think some beach properties got hit that weren't intended, and those are some properties that have been operating commercially for a very long time and have transient and motel licenses are being requested to comply with the vacation rental ordinance, and we should not be, as the Holiday Inn is not, as some of the other motel properties are not being requested, and so the ones that are, that have been commercial, I just want to make the commission aware that we're already jumping through all those hoops. We're asking the vacation rentals to do what we're doing. So when I think that when they were aiming the arrow at the beach, they meant individuals who were renting condos in a similar fashion that the vacation rentals are being done in other parts of the town. So there's been some discussion about that, and Mary will get in touch with you, or if we need to, about just removing the request that we comply and have further inspections on top of the ones we're already doing. The other one is parking. Still know that all the towns around us are using these electronic digital parking controls. They're very easy to use. We need it. We need it. We can't give free parking. We're inviting an unsavory element to our beach at times, and it's a safety issue. Safety. You know, we don't need that element mixing with people that are paying $1,000 a night for rentals. So I think we need parking controls on all of our public parking, all around the triangle, all the way down Gulf Boulevard. Anywhere else it's public. Anywhere else it's public. Put a number on it. People are expecting to pay. I don't think it's going to make money for the town, but maybe it'll offset some expenses. We have new employees and so on. It's bound to offset something small. So just as a control and a safety issue. Not trying to make money. Just need to control our public streets. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Hi. Hi.
Beth McMullen, 481 Harbor Drive South. I just wanted the city and the residents to know that on October 25th, our Ring camera picked up a nefarious car going by our mailbox and our neighbor's mailbox at 3:30 in the morning. We didn't have any mail in our mailbox, but our neighbors did, and they took mail out of their mailbox. They looked like they went down to the end of the cul-de-sac and came back, and it looks like it was being done throughout the neighborhood. I spoke to the post office, and they said that it had been happening from Indian Shores all the way down through Bel Air Beach. So, and they suggest that we all bring our mail in at night. Apparently they're taking checks, and they can wash the name off of the page of the order of and fill it out with something other than who it's intended for. And they also are taking credit card applications and things and then selling them. I don't know what. So I just want everybody to know that that's happening in the town.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for telling us that.
Good evening. Mark Bodine, Cameron Cove Resort, 2402 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach. I've been there for over 40 years as the manager of the resort. Back in December 2019, talking about the beach renourishment, I signed the document giving the Corps of Engineers the right to come onto our easement to do the beach renourishment, which is much needed. The response from the homeowners was kind of pathetic because it didn't happen. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from the city on a Monday saying, we need this document signed by Friday and notarized to go ahead and start the beach renourishment. I thought, this is great, we're finally gonna get it. We did not realize that there was gonna be a 10-foot dune put out in front of our resort, blocking our view, blocking access from the people to get from the resort over the dune to the beach. And I have pictures I'm gonna submit to the commission. The worst case is the property north of us has no dune. So what is that gonna do as far as the next storm that comes in to prevent water from coming onto our property? I don't think this was thought out very good, and it really upsets me that it wasn't done all the way across Indian Rocks Beach to protect the property, and that was the part of the renourishment. It's much needed. During high tide, we have no beach. We have a lot of residents that come into the city that vacation at Cameron Cove Resort, because we're a timeshare resort. They spend a lot of money in the city, and most of our calls at this point have been, we can't get to the beach, we have to climb over the dune to get to the beach. Well, maybe we won't be coming anymore. And I think it's going to be a financial problem for the city because of this. They're going to put plantings out on the beach. I'd like to know how we can get from Cameron Cove Resort to the beach without going over the dune. It is a major problem, and I hope that the commission can resolve the problem. Again, I thank the commission and the city employees for what they're doing to try and get the beach for nourishment, because you've gone to Washington, D.C. to try and get it, and you've worked on it for years and years. I do not understand why the homeowners, have not agreed to have the Corps of Engineers to come in and do it, but the project that we have now, to me, is just upsetting and ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time?
We got long legs. Don House, 2104 Beach Trail. I called John Bishop on the way out because I've had a lot of questions about what we're calling on the beach the dune boggle, because it has taken away where we're at either one. I did not sign it because I read the stuff and there's no way I was gonna sign it. But they put on, the sand that they put in took up 100% of the beach that was available to people to come to the beach. It's gone. We had beach there before that was usable for people that were coming to the beach. We no longer have that. So my question has been, how much of the new dunes is going to be planted? So, which means you can't get on it. I don't know if you can get on it where it's not planted or not, but according to John, everything from the crest of the dune landward will be planted, and then where the slope starts coming down, the 41 slope, there will be all but 7 feet will be planted. So at where, not where I live, but the two monstrosities they built on either side, the dune boggles, they have taken away all but about 6 feet of beach. So the 30 feet of the beach that was there is no longer there. It is not usable for humans. And that's what I've been saying. We need to define how much usable space beach for humans. I live on the beach. It'd be nice to have somebody on the beach that could ask these questions. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, I'm Jim Lavity. I live at 316 10th Avenue, and I've lived in Indian Rocks Beach for 21 years, and I've had a business here for over 40 years. So I'm familiar with what goes on in town to some extent. Right now there's a couple topics that I wanted to bring up. The sand being put on the beach is great. I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth at all. I think that's wonderful, and I understand that the sand is coming from an area where there's no salt been put on it, because the sand that normally is on the beach has been salted all this life. This sand that's being put on the beach does not have the salt, and things will grow better and faster. So that I'm looking forward to. One of the other topics I wanted to ask about, and that is I understand that the Holiday Inn is wanting to expand in its size, and I question that, and I prefer not seeing it.
Jim,
Yes.
They are actually on the agenda tonight, so you have to wait till talk about that agenda item when they're on.
Next topic. All right. The other one was about the beach, and too many things happen at one time. Anyway, I'll think about it. If it's important, I'll try and get back to y'all and talk to it. But the beach is so important. The businesses on the beach are so important, and what's the problem I understand is that this tax that the city is wanting to imply or put in, where we're having to pay now more. I mean, I understand it's about a $1,500 tax that I've got to pay for the city, and I don't know what I get for that. I mean, I paid a lot of taxes, which go to the state, the county, and the city, I'm sure, since my wife takes care of all that, frees me up. But I'm concerned about that as well as the cost of things going up so much for the small businesses on Gulf Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Hi, I'm Diane Daniel, Jim Levity's neighbor, 309 10th Avenue. Just a couple things. One thing I wanted to follow up on, at the last meeting, I mentioned that the county has new recycling labels for the bins, and I saw them the other day, and they're really wonderful. They're very clear, and it has what you can recycle and what you cannot, such as putting your recyclables in a plastic bag. So I really hope the city looks into getting those, especially with so many tourists using the bins. They might have different rules where they live. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the short-term rental process. I just finished mine, and I found it to be extremely overwhelming because it's really a hodgepodge of a lot of things. There's some things that are a little contradictory. There's some things that are repetitive. There's different fonts and typefaces and forms, and it was very confusing. And I'm pretty good at forms. And as a professional communicator, I see ways that this could be so much clearer. So I know that it's a new thing and you had to put things quickly together, but I really hope as time goes on you can make it a lot user-friendly, because I've seen many forms that are much user-friendly. I also have talked to many people who have vacation rentals and still don't realize that there's a new rule in effect. I know that you're sending out emails. I do wonder if your program, your email program, allows you to see the open rate, how many people are opening these emails. That's really important. And you can also get email programs where you can remind people who didn't open the email to look at the email. I'm kind of shocked at how many people say, oh, I already did my registration, and they don't realize there's a whole new thing they have to do. The other thing about it, and I feel super important, is that, and again, it's a new program, I know you're working through it, is for one person, for one unit, it basically costs $37.50 a month. So if you have, let's say you have 3 units, that's $100 a month that you're spending on this process. Right now, there's no disincentive to put it off. So it started August 1st. And you could continue to put it off. Like, I delayed it for a few months because it just took me a while to get it together. But that means the early birds who did it right away are actually paying $37.50 each unit extra, because it renews at date of issuance. It does not renew at the same date. So unlike the way we have our Pinellas County property taxes, where you have an incentive to pay early and then you're paying more later, this is the opposite. So I really hope that as you move forward, you can look into that so that people who pay early have an incentive to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
No, I'll let you say.
Racing to get up here. Okay, I'm Bert Valerie. I moved to Indian Rocks Beach in 1979, so I'm like a 45-year resident of Indian Rocks Beach. I opened my...
Mr. Miller, could you just state your address?
2113 Gulf Boulevard. I also opened my business in 1980 in Indian Rocks Beach, and so that's 44 years that they've been here as well. Okay, my building is like 200 years old. Like a lot of these buildings that we have, the little mom and pop buildings up and down Gulf Boulevard, mine is actually 70 years old, okay? I think most of them were built in the 40s and 50s, so you can do the math and come up with, there's a whole bunch of them. You start up with the Sandkeep building, and then coming down and Sandy's building, and then across the street what the county knocked down, those buildings, my building, you know, Red Lion Restaurant, 1401 Plaza, Panjano's, and you can see all of these things are all same deal as mine. They're at the point where they need some help and they need something done to them. I've been putting money into my roof, into the plumbing. We've got the pipes were completely clogged with roots. I mean, I don't know how anything went through those things. I had to tear that up. So it gets to a point of what should we do here in terms of rehabbing, or just knock it down and start over again? Well, I came to you in the spring with a knock it down and let's start over again and try to do a really good thing for Indian Rocks Beach and build a mixed-use complex with my office downstairs and my residence above. Okay, my lot and literally all these other mom and pop lots up and down Gulf Boulevard are 60 by 120. That's the common norm. Somebody might own 2 lots, they might own 3 lots or whatever to make them a little bit bigger, but you know, the standard here is 60 by 120. All right, that gives us a building site, okay, after the setbacks of 75 by 45. So you can be 45 wide on the street on Gulf Boulevard and 75 foot deep. That's exactly what we want to do, cut it down the middle and have 2 mixed-use units. Offices on the ground level and then 2 stories of residence above. So looking at it as if it was 3 different floors, that would be the upstairs 3rd floor resident, 2nd floor resident, and ground floor the mixed use, commercial retail. But when I come to you guys, we run into a problem called FAR, floor area ratio. So I came to you in the spring, and because of this, the FAR, it gave me only the first 13 feet downstairs that I could use. And that means what everybody else could use too. So it basically prohibits mixed use because nobody's going to build a unit of that size. That's just completely outrageous. All right, so what you all decided to do was send Hetty to the county and ask their advice. Okay, I've got my 2 daughters here to donate their 3 minutes to me, so I have an additional 6 minutes. So I'm just going to continue.
I'm sorry, folks, could you just stand up?
You guys want to stand up?
Do you in fact give your 3 minutes to this gentleman?
I do. I released my 3 minutes. My name is Shally Valerie.
Thank you.
I released my 3 minutes. I'm Colette Valerie.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yay for the Valeries, thank you. Okay, so bottom line was you all decided back in the spring to have Hetty talk to the county. Now remember, we had a USF study done, paid for between Action 2000 and the city. They came back with their recommendations on how to save Gulf Boulevard. Then in 2000, you had the visioning study done, paid more money, and they came back with their recommendations of how to save Gulf Boulevard. Both of them said the same thing. You need to do mixed use on Gulf Boulevard. What is a town? What is a village? It's the combination of businesses. If we don't have the businesses, we're a sand key. Okay? So, you know, y'all can see what's going to happen in the future. All these other small businesses like myself are going to come to you and want to do upgrades on their places, and you're telling them, no, our code doesn't allow it. So it's time to change the code. So Hetty goes to the county, she goes to Fort Pinellas, met with those people, I met with those people. They came back with several very good recommendations. Finally, Hetty finalized the recommendation with them, sent me an email telling me that, Bert, we've solved the problem. You're going to be able to use the whole ground floor and actually a little bit of the 2nd floor for the commercial retail. And then the rest of the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor would be our home, the residence. She then met with staff. Now, who's staff? Staff's going to end up being Hetty, Greg, the city manager, and probably Cookie. And staff completely surprised me. I get this note in the mail in October after I thought we had the matter solved. Staff has evaluated the matter, including a review of the comments from Floyd Pinellas, which gave them great recommendations on how to do it. Upon review, the city is not pursuing any further review or revision of the land development code on this subject. So they're basically telling us, all of us are small businesses, you might as well sell your place and move to Largo. you know, we don't appreciate you, we don't want you here, and go ahead and leave. Because I don't know what to do with my place. I mean, it's 70 years old. I'm not gonna put any more money into it with whitewash sort of stuff. It's gotta be knocked down, and we build a new building. And they had a solution. Forward Pinellas in agreement. You know, we were in agreement. But all of a sudden, staff says, no, I'm not gonna change the code. You know, if you don't change the code, then none of us are gonna be able to do anything. So what I'm asking you to do is, you really need to do some brainwashing up there and decide, do you want mixed use in Indian Rocks Beach? Do you want to save Gulf Boulevard? Or are you just telling all of us to get out? Because what's going to happen then is, I move my office to Largo, I move my residence to Largo, you lose a 45-year-old business here. All these other ones are going to be the same thing. And then we're going to sell off to a developer, and what are they going to do? They're going to build a 3-story condominium. And who's going to live in that? Short-term rental. You know, this is just a problem you're trying to solve, and you're creating it. I mean, I just don't understand where you're coming from up there. You know, you got me baffled. So again, what I'm suggesting is one of you commissioners make a motion that you put this on the agenda in December, where the mixed-use thing for the FAR, that's really easy to solve. There's no problem there. I mean, we had it solved before. You know, you could get me done in a hurry. But this is a bigger question than that. It's a question of what you want to really do with Gulf Boulevard. You know, do you want to save our small town image, or do you want it just to all go condominium? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And once you've made that decision, then you get into doing a serious change to our building code. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Hi, Mary.
Hello, I'm Mary Wilkerson. I reside at 490 Harbor Drive North, and we also have businesses, small cottage properties. We started in 1988, 810, 306, 308, 20 Gulf Boulevard. And I'm going to dovetail to what Jim was talking about. I think what he meant, instead of a tax, he meant the fee for this, you know, for the short-term rentals. I've been round and round about this, and it looks like, depending on where you look at the map, some of the small properties, some of the motels are inspected as short-term rentals, and some are not. I have the same exact hotel license. I've checked with the state. We have a city license, a county license, and a state license. We have a motel license. We have been jumping through, as Lee said, these hoops since 1988. We don't meet the standards, we exceed the standards. If you don't believe me, come to any of our properties. So the things, I am totally in agreement with what y'all were trying to do to regulate the short-term rentals. You listen to people on Harbor Drive North, but you listen to the residents, and you heard their, you heard their pleas and to not make this one big vacation rental. And I think you did a really good job. I sat through a lot of those meetings. I sat through, you know, a 6-hour meeting. You had a 7-hour meeting. God love you. You had the patience of Job up there. But I didn't sit through the meeting that said, all of you motel owners that have been following these rules, that have been licensed for all these years, are going to have to now pay, my fees will be over $6,000. That's just the fee. That's not jumping through all the hoops, that's not anything else. That's just our fees, $6,000, for doing what we've already been doing since 1988. Fully licensed, fully inspected from, again, city, county, and the state. So unfair to have carve-outs to me. I looked at the map, there's a carve-out on Gulf Boulevard, as you know, between 11 all the way to 28. I go to Mike Kelly and he says, oh, that's all zoned office. Good luck finding offices between here and there. It's mostly vacation rentals. So again, where, you know, some places they do have to pay the fee, some places they don't. Inconsistent, just like Diane said, it needs to be tweaked. I was never for, obviously, putting this in the commercial tourist. Why? Because we've already been there. We've already been inspected to death and licensed to death and taxed to death. So, you know, if there was a problem, if you were finding that we were having 25 people in a one-bedroom, then yes, address those problems. But there hasn't been a problem, and now, again, I'll have to pay $6,000 plus a year. So thank you for listening, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Yes.
Robert Curtolizzi. I live in Driftwood Sands, 2618 Gulf Boulevard, number 503 at the north end of town. I'm very grateful for the sand that was brought in. I was happy to see it getting installed. And the fact that they're going to put vegetation on top of the dune to hold the sand in place, because that's what prevents the erosion. When you look at what Adalia did, by and large, the part of the dune that was vegetated remained fairly intact. It was the part that had no vegetation that got washed away. So I'm glad that the dune restoration project is getting done. What I was not aware of is that they were going to build a 10-foot high mountain and then just plant on top. When they went out there and poured the sand on, and they had the front end loader spreading the sand out, it's quite high, as some of the other people said. And I believe I read in the paper last week there was going to be some final contouring done before they did the planting. And those of us at Driftwood Sands, we were, last Saturday evening, we had an event out on our pool deck, which is right behind the dune, and everybody was asking, what's going on with this dune? We can't even see the water anymore. It's just sand and then the sky. And I was telling them, well, I think they still have some final contouring to do before they do the planting, because that's what I believe I read in the newspaper. But Mr. Bishop tonight said all the contouring is done. The machines are off the beach, so I think all they have left to do is planting, which that's just destroyed our views. I think what's going to happen is people are going to walk over the dunes, and that's a sad thing to see. So I was kind of surprised when Mr. Bishop said we're done with the contouring, and I'm wondering if that county can flatten it out a little bit before they do the planting. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time during public comment?
Hi, I'm Lynn Armbruster Timberlake, and I don't live on the beach, but I represent my family's property at 514.
I'm sorry, could you please state your address, please?
514 Gulf Boulevard. And we have been here since 1972 and have been one of the commercial vacation rental properties. We are listed as a transient rental and have vacation rentals from all year long. And we have read over and over again the paperwork that was given to us. And some of it is a little bit not clear to where we stand. I understand that we are not in the carve-out section, so we're going to be charged the fees. And we, again, as Mary and Lee Wilkerson stated and Jim Labadie, we have paid fees. We pay our state, our county, and our local taxes. And we pay everything. We're inspected several times a year. So we have been doing these things since 1972 and we'll continue to do all those things. So we're just a little bit not clear as to why some of the properties that are similar to ours are being in a carve-out section. They're not being assessed the same things that we are. And we're a small little boutique property, and just really want to make sure that we are in the same area that some of the carve-outs are. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? Hi, John.
Good evening. John Hansfield, 448 Harbor Drive South. First, ditto to what Mary and Lee and Don said. But to move on from that, I thought the City Commission and the city staff did a wonderful job of working to fill the vacancy that was left when Joe McCall was no longer here. We went through the meeting, and we had a number of very good residents wanting to fill that. I thought you did a good job in terms of selecting them. I want to give congratulations to Janet. And it was really refreshing to hear that somebody was saying that it's time to take the short-term rental issue in residential neighborhoods to Tallahassee, because that's where the major change is going to have to happen. And that is critical because every week we're losing more and more residents to these unsupervised transient hotels. In just 1 week, La Hacienda was advertised as waterfront, perfect for investor looking for short-term rental property. 340 Bahia Vista was listed as a highly sought-after vacation rental. 450 20th IRB said no minimal rental restriction. This home is perfect for lucrative investment. 210 2108 Bay Boulevard said no rental restrictions. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And just next to land, property went up. And again, they said, this is perfect for short-term rentals. And coincidentally, the day the for sale sign went up, all the homes on hotel signs were stolen. So this is a problem that is going to continue. And I hope we're not going to do. Just think that because the regulations have been passed, that it's going to be solved with that alone. So I hope you keep your eye on the ball, and there's a number of things that still can be done to protect the few remaining residents we have, because otherwise it's going to be like Old Orchard Beach. It's going to be just transient rental properties and more crime. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see future actions that are proactive towards getting rid of short-term rentals, which should never be in residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak at this time? Hi, Mayor.
Good evening, R.B. Johnson, 1206 Beach Trail. I just wanted to mention something having to do with the existing dunes, not the new dunes that have been put in. When Hurricane Idalia passed by, we all know that the dunes got scarped or carved away pretty badly, not just in Indian Rocks Beach, but all the way up and down the Pinellas coastline. And to add insult to injury, that those dunes have been getting beaten up a lot since then by people coming out and recreating right up against or on top of the edges of those dunes. Since they're so exposed, they used to be covered by a lot of vegetation on the front, but now they seem to become sort of a favorite recreation area, whether it's kids climbing or people sitting on top of the edges and causing them to be eroded more. I saw that some kids were digging into the side, creating caves in those escarpments, etc. This was just this weekend. You know, a lot of that vegetation that was there, a lot of vegetation immediately to the west of those dunes will actually come back over time, give a chance. If they're not being pounded, the vegetation in the ground in that area is not getting pounded down by people. And a few years back, Greg and I were talking about ways to try to keep people off of the dunes. And Greg had suggested something I think that he saw up maybe in Alabama, up along those shores where they put posts and rope out, basically sort of to keep people out. And we used to have that at all the accesses when they were first planted, 30 odd years ago. We had that at every single access and also in front of the county park. And over time, as the dunes had migrated and changed, a lot of that had just kind of gotten covered over in sand or had gotten kind of eroded away or whatnot. But I thought that something like that might be useful, perhaps just at the accesses to start. I mean, something to sort of keep people away for that first 5 or 10 feet seaward of the escarpment or the cliff that you see in the dunes, just to keep people off and give them a chance to restore themselves, because nature will come back, seeds will drop and plants will try to grow and try to spread out from existing dunes, but if they're just getting beaten up day after day, it's going to be a lot harder for the dunes to restore themselves. So just something for you all to think about, or administration, about some possibilities of what could be done in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Orby. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment, and I'm going to move on to the report of the city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First and foremost, though he's, I'm sure, already on greener pastures, I want to take the opportunity to thank Joe McCall for his service to this community. As echoed in the mayor's sentiments, it was a pleasure to work and serve with him. That said, Commissioner Wilson, congratulations and welcome to the team. We look forward to working with you over these next few months. As far as current issues, obviously we have a few hearings tonight. One of the issues that I know there's been a keen interest in has been short-term rentals. As I stated during my report last month, we have 7 lawsuits pending against the city of Indian Rocks Beach in connection with the adoption of a short-term rental ordinance. 6 of them have been brought by one law firm. 1 has been brought by another law firm. Though I've heard reports that another may be forthcoming, that has not happened yet. After those suits were filed in state court, we removed them through the city's litigation counsel. They were with Henderson Franklin. Those cases were removed to federal court. They are now all consolidated before a single judge, not consolidated as a single proceeding, but at least proceeding before a single judge. That judge has issued at least a preliminary scheduling order that has the parties going to mediation in January to discuss the potential resolution of the matter before additional litigation. The city has responded to the complaints in each instance by filing motions to dismiss. After they filed their initial complaint, we filed motions to dismiss. Some of the litigants have already amended their complaint, and we are continuing to pursue a motion to dismiss on those. With the current case posture, as always, the goal of litigation is to end litigation, however that may be. With mediation on the horizon, I am formally requesting a shade meeting from the city with the City Commission to discuss the potential to discuss mediation, the litigation strategy, costs, and settlement, which is what the statute limits executive session shade meetings to. City staff, I'm requesting that you coordinate with the commissioners to find a date. In speaking with the litigation counsel, I know we have some preliminary proposals as soon as the first week of December. So city staff, city commissioners, if you could please be mindful as you have outreach from Lauren or Greg to for your calendar availability. I'll be needing a meeting with you to discuss that matter or those matters. And there are 7 presently in federal court that are, as I said before, with motion practice pending and some deadlines already set by the court. With that, I have no other report at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Randy? Hearing none, we'll go to the city manager. Greg, do you want to give your report?
Yeah, I provided my report to the commission in writing, but I'll just briefly cover it. We had Hollow Fest, which is our children's fall event back on October the 28th. It was a huge success. We had several hundred children that were in attendance. I want to thank our city team, Krabby Bills, who wrote the city a check for $10,000 to pay for the expense. IRB Home provided volunteers, the sheriff's office, and the fire department, and Pinellas County for participating in that premier children's event. Last Thursday, our new revenue officer and 1 additional code enforcement staff began work. Our host compliance company that we've hired has begun work to put together their database and mapping association with vacation rental monitoring. This process will take several weeks to complete and implement. Part of that will come, we think before the end of the year, will be a 1-800 number that will be published where residents can call if they have an issue with a vacation rental. That's dealt with through a process. As of last Tuesday, there's been 95 vacation rental certificates issued. 118 applications were approved through finance. 14 applications were pending in finance. 95 properties inspected, certificates issued, and there's 23 properties, and this is as of last week, pending inspections. There's probably 40 more that we've received since last Tuesday. They're in the process. It's really like a 2-step process. The finance team reviews the paperwork, meets with the applicant to ensure all that's correct, and then it's turned over to code enforcement and schedule the inspections, and they go out and look for make sure that they comply with the signage and the other things that are in the ordinance. Courtesy notices are being mailed this week to all property owners on the west side of Guth Boulevard, advising vacation rental operators to comply. In December, we'll begin the process of sending notices of violations and hearing dates if necessary to the businesses that were previously registered with us. You know, under the old ordinance, we had somewhere around 100 or 400 businesses that were registered, and all of those have not initiated the process of registering with us. That notice, official notice requirement would be, as we talked about for the benefit of people that are here, you know, the ordinance went into effect on October the 1st. You know, we knew this was going to be a several month to a year-long process to really implement this, because different elements of the process were in the budget that went into effect on October the 1st. 2 additional people, the host compliance company, but so it went into effect on August the 1st. The end of August we had a hurricane, and for our small staff, that's everybody a week before, a week after involved in that. And then like I said, just last Thursday, the 2 additional people have come on. So we're really starting to queue this up. One thing I will address that was brought up earlier, and this is something that the commission debated for months, is talking about the areas that are excluded. The areas that are excluded are the properties that are zoned commercial. So that's the triangle and the properties primarily on the east side of Gulf Boulevard that are zoned commercial. Those are the only exclusions. So everywhere else, except for those 2 areas, are required to comply. Under the terms of the state code, a motel is 6 or more units with parking spaces for each unit, and they're required to have a full-time lobby with marked hours of operation. So I'm aware of one situation that we have in our code. Folks will be reaching out to one of the speakers tonight to go take a look at their property. If they meet the 6 or more units, then they have a lobby in their facility with marked hours, and they're considered a motel. If they're not 6 or more units, then they don't have, and there's other requirements, don't have a marked lobby with marked hours of operation, and they may have an issue with the state, because that's what the state requirements are. Code enforcement spent a substantial amount of time assisting Pinellas County with securing easements for the Pinellas County Emergency Beach Erosion Control Project. That effort started on September the 20th and ended on October the 27th. So there was a lot of time obligated to that. And just to stress to people that have continued interest, I know Cookie and I probably will have some follow-up conversations with the county. This is a county project. It was designed, budgeted, and paid for by the county. The concerns that have been expressed about the sloping or the height, I think that's something we probably could follow up. Now, can Cookie not change that? I'm not going to promise you we can do that, but we definitely will have some follow-up conversations with them. That process involved securing easements for 65 parcels. The contractor for the Gulf Boulevard Undergrounding Phase 2 project began the first phase of the project. This project is divided into 3 phases and is scheduled to be completed by 2025. And the reason why that takes that long, as a reminder, is that the city receives an allocation of money every year from the county. So we broke it up in phases where the city does not have to go long borrowing money or use a lot of excess reserves to do that. So that's the work that you've seen start north of 5th. Beach accesses that are open, out of the 27, there's 13 that are open: 18, 17, 15, 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And our contractor is currently working on 26 and 28. And they'll just progress down the beach. Cookie asked me before the meeting how long that would take. Worst case, we think it will take probably the end of December to get them all open back up. Dean, what was the one that the contractor was working off over? They were rolling on and off?
They were on 19th.
19th is the beach access that was used to deliver sand. We think we probably can have that open just in the next few days. They're pulling out of there now, so we can get that back open.
They're way ahead of schedule, aren't they, Greg? Because they were saying the 31st, and now they.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The original schedule that the county gave us for both projects on each end went all the way to the end of December.
Right.
So now they're saying that December 3rd, so it's a lot quicker.
It is.
One thing I need to address that was brought up by a gentleman earlier was the issue of commercial properties and, you know, people's ability to develop property. I'm going to ask Hetty just to provide the commission with a memorandum with the backup documentation. That'll, I think, and we'll do that in layman's terms. It'll explain to you that no one from the county or no one from the city gave any property owner on Gut Boulevard a memorandum, an email, or anything else saying, we have the answer to your problem, you can build your project. Because in fact, the gentleman who spoke earlier cannot even fit all the required parking spaces on his property because his property is not big enough. So there was a lot of inaccuracies about that. But we'll provide the commission with a easy to read memorandum that'll give you an email, and then after you get that, if you have any questions, we can just follow up with it. And the last thing I'll tell you is that I'm very appreciative of the staff that I work with. Hurricanes and things are not fun. There's a lot of things that we deal with, and just everything that's done here with solid waste employees. And, I've said this before. We're just people we're used to throwing whatever in a can and we roll it out in the street. We don't worry about what we really threw in there, whether there might be a loose needle, a syringe, or anything else in there. And I just, this is the time of year where I want to publicly thank all the people I work with, because it's taken us 10 years to really have the operation that we have, and we want to improve and improve every day, but we really do have a great group of folks here that bust their cans day in and day out. So happy Thanksgiving. The last thing would be the tree lighting is this Friday, December the 1st at 7 o'clock. The homeowners, Action 2000 volunteers for that. And that's another event where Krabby Bill's provides a lot of stuff for us free. And then the Christmas parade is the following Sunday on the 3rd, and it starts at 1 o'clock. It runs its regular route. But I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for the city manager? Jude, do you have a question for us? Well, I'm going to start with our brand new city commissioner, Jan Wilson. And would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about who you are?
Please use the mic.
And use the mic.
Yes, that would be helpful. My name is Janet W. Wilson, and I am originally from Ohio. We first fell in love with Indian Rocks Beach in 1996 when we came here for vacation. We stayed at Sarah Seaside. I know, when I saw the workers, I was like, okay. And partially, I know a lot of times we blame Krabby Bill's for a lot of things, that we can kind of blame them for us falling in love because we had a multi-handicapped daughter and they loved her. Her disability was similar to Jake's, although she was much more disabled. And so they reached out and showed us so much love in our visits that it gave us that hometown feel. If you go to the Historical Center, you will see that when they used to have the dollar bills stapled up, when they took those down and donated them, I believe it was after 9/11, that they saved 5 of them. 3 of them made the history book. 1 is my family's from that first visit. So yeah, they're to blame. We loved it so much, we stayed again at Sarah Seaside the next year. Then we stayed at Reed Club, again with Wilkerson's. And in '99, we bought our first vacation condo here. I was a career educator in Ohio, 39 years in Southwestern City Schools. I had the opportunity to do a variety of positions, everywhere from 3-year-olds to high school seniors. A lot of my time was spent with dropout prevention. I was given amazing opportunities to address legislative sessions, to tell the governor of Ohio no on some topics, and being the parent of a multi-handicapped child, I also had some opportunities to serve on some advisory committees for Medicaid waiver. We were fortunate enough to have one of those. I was lucky enough to attach myself to the Community Development Director of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and through that got to be part of Forward Together Columbus, which was a grassroots committee. I was one of the 5 co-chairs. We were part of what ended up taking the privately owned Nationwide Arena and making it a public entity. So I had lots of experiences that weren't really on commission, but gave me some opportunities to develop some skills that I think will be helpful here. I look forward to working with everybody, and probably a lot of you have seen me out with this crazy little pot cake, which is a street dog from Nassau, Bahamas named Kenzo, walking the streets.
Thank you. Commissioner? My report for this month? Yes. Welcome, Jan.
Well, Dan Carpenter and I are building an all-new website for this city, and it's coming right along, isn't it, Dan?
Thanks to you, yes.
So, yeah, we've been working behind the scenes. We've got a new design. We've got a design team that's pulling it together for us, and I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year, maybe January, we'll have a preview. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Lan?
Nothing to report today.
Vice Mayor Jude?
I have exciting news. So I just wanted to let everyone know that on December 9th, there's the annual Indian Rocks Beach Tour of Homes, which is sponsored by, among other people, IRB Home, the Beach Arts Center. I forget who else is involved, but anyway, it's an opportunity to go along and visit a number of homes in town that have been festively decorated.
Yours too, right, Jude? Your home?
No.
That's not what your wife said.
So anyway, anyone who's interested can find out more from IRB Home's website or from the Beach Arts Center.
Anything else, Jude?
I forgot.
Okay, we think of it. I just wanted to again go over the holiday dates so that in case, and they're also on our website. So the Christmas tree lighting will be Friday evening, December 1st. I believe that's at 7 o'clock, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. We will have the street parade on Sunday, December 3rd, which is 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. And the Christmas lighted boat parade on Saturday evening, December 16th, which is 7 p.m. So that and that of course starts at the Holiday Inn. I think that is good. Wasn't that wonderful to have the veterans with us? I think that's the biggest group that we've ever had. That was just amazing. I'm so happy that we had them today. And with that, we will move on to our next agenda. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I want to thank the staff for doing so much work. I see Michelle Hargett out here. She's relatively new. And I want to thank her. She came in on one of her first weeks on a Saturday to help with all of the information that they needed for the short-term rental. Lauren has stepped in and she's had to swear in our new person, and she's only been in the job how many months now?
4 months.
4 months. And of course we have Dean and Dan and Hetty. Thank you for everything that you do for us to try to make things run smoothly. With that, we will move on to additions and deletions. Are there any tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The approval of the October 10, 2023 regular city commission meeting minutes. Randy, would you read?
Mayor, that is the only item on the consent agenda this evening.
Okay. With that, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion to accept, is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. We'll go to our first public hearing, which is a BOA case number 2023-08, 320 12th Avenue. It's a variance. Randy, would you please read?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Board of Adjustment case number 2023-08 for 320 12th Avenue. This is a variance request from section 110-131 sub 1 sub f sub 1 of the Code of Ordinances, 10 feet into the required 25-foot front yard setback, resulting in a total setback of 15 feet for the extension of the garage. Before we begin, Commissioner, and to my newest Commissioner, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. In a quasi-judicial hearing, you are no longer making the law, but you are applying the law to the facts and evidence presented to you this evening. Your decision is to be bound by the competent and substantial evidence presented to you tonight. Before we begin, has anybody had any member of the commission had any ex parte communications with the applicant or agent or any party to this proceedings? Meaning, have you talked to them about this application before this hearing?
No.
All having responded in the negative, has any member of this body done any site visit for the limited purpose of evaluating this application? Not a general awareness of the location by virtue of your residence here, but if you went to the site to evaluate the application?
No.
All having responded in the negative, will anybody who intends to offer any testimony, evidence before this body this evening, please stand and raise your right hand. This is just on the Board of Adjustment variance hearing for 320 12th Avenue. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. With that, we will begin with staff. Staff will give its presentation. You will have any opportunity to conduct any cross-examination should you desire. Then the floor will be yours. Staff will also have that opportunity. The commission, of course, can ask questions at any time. We'll open to public comment. Staff will give its final comments. You'll have the final word, and that will conclude the proceedings. With that, Hetty, if you could please begin.
As stated, this is a request to extend the garage 10 feet into the front yard setback. As you can tell by looking at the lot here, that it's on a curve, and there's also a large amount of right-of-way in front of their property line, a lot more than other lots along the roadway. And, this is the existing survey for the site. And this is the area where they want to add on to the front of the garage. There is a garage here right now, but it's so tight in there with there's the mechanical equipment in there, and they can't get in there with his car to even open up doors. I mean, basically it's a storage area. And that's why he's requesting to add on the extra feet in front of the house here. And as you can still see, it's quite a distance to the actual right-of-way line, and actually to the pavement line. This is a more detailed addition picture of showing the garage. And there's some photos. As you can see, the house is set back quite a distance from the street. There's different views here. And there's an existing picture and also the proposed addition of what they plan to do. They do plan to put a little bit of storage area on top of the garage as well. And with that, the vote of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals was 4-0.
In which direction?
To approve the variance.
Would does anyone on the commission have any questions for Hetty at this time?
Hey, could you put that picture back up on the screen? So if we were to look at the existing picture, the extension would not go past the sidewalk over there, it would be right where your arrow is.
Right, let's look at it this way.
Okay, yeah, so it does not go past the curve of the drive.
No, I mean, this is their property line here, and then this is the actual edge of pavement.
And it is on a pie-shaped line.
Yeah, it's on a pie-shaped line.
Any questions for Hetty before we bring the applicant up?
I have one.
Yes.
Can you tell me the distance from the curb to the proposed front of the garage? Of the new garage?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on that.
Because it looks like it's more than 25 feet from
Here to here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
From
probably is. And then, but this is the actual property line right there.
I'm just trying to consider
The overall distance is going to be over 40 feet, probably 45 feet.
And 45 feet to the front of the garage?
Yeah, from the road, from the actual pavement. Normally we measure setback from the property line also.
Yeah, and what is the typical distance from the pavement to the property line? I know it varies.
It varies, but if you can tell by this aerial here, you can see how much greater this is here.
Look at the one across the street from it.
Yeah, and then here you have like a much lesser, like 10 feet.
Yeah.
Is usually what it, but since it's at a curve, that's kind of what's happened there and made it shot.
And that's just how it gets drawn, huh?
Right.
Anybody have any questions for Hetty at this time? No. Would the applicant like to come, please state your name?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. Lauren Rubenstein here on behalf of the applicant, 2700 First Avenue North in St. Petersburg, and I have been sworn. First of all, I want to thank Hetty for her presentation. She did a great job explaining what the request is. And I don't have a clicker, so I guess I'll depend on Hetty to move me to the next slide.
And for the sake of the record, the commissioners have a copy of the presentation before them in hard copy as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So what's being requested is the 10-foot front yards a variance of 10 feet into the front yard setback to allow the extension of an existing garage for the applicant's vehicle. The 25-foot setback currently required, we're proposing a 15-foot setback. And there's that same picture that shows you where the property line is, where the proposed addition would be. Go to the next. And we feel this request does meet all the criteria set forth in section 2-152 of the city code. So there are special conditions and circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the land that are not applicable to other lands in the zoning district. The subject property is a pie-shaped lot along a curved right-of-way, which does limit the amount of buildable area on the lot. The applicant's home is currently set back 30 feet from the property line and 55 feet from the edge of pavement, which I think is really important when you're looking at visually what we just had up as well, so you can gauge the actual impact here. With the reduced front yard setback, the garage will still be about 40 feet from the curb, and there will be no interference with the circular driveway that's currently existing. The special conditions of the property are not a result of the applicant. He was not the person that platted the property, nor did he build the single family home that was there. This is just a panoramic view of the subject property to give you a good idea. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but how his property is situated on that curve. Again, there are no issues with visibility. As you can see, there are a bunch of trees that are along the property line that belong to the neighbor. The addition wouldn't even go out past the circular driveway, much less the trees, and that neighbor has agreed that he does not object and is in support of the variance, and a copy of that letter is included in your backup. Next, a couple of pie-shaped lots. Pictures. This variance would not confer any special privilege on the applicant. Of course, there's many other homes in the neighborhood that are built to accommodate larger vehicles and multiple vehicles at times. And as you saw in the property appraiser's overview that Hetty had, a lot of the property lines are much closer to the actual edge of pavement. So when you look at other homes, they do appear to be much closer as far as setbacks are concerned. And we have a couple of pictures of that as you go through. We go to the next one. And I think this is really a very good visual here. Is on the right-hand side is the subject property we're talking about, next to another house that you see how much closer it appears they are to the right-of-way. I'm sure, I'm not familiar with the property. I'm sure they comply with setbacks. They look like they're set back 25 feet. But just so you could see visually how different this piece of property is and how it's, oriented on the lot. Next. The literal interpretation of the code would work unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Development is limited because of the pie shape of the property, and it would require that the applicant to build a new garage elsewhere or potentially redevelop the entire property to make it possible to park his vehicle inside. He doesn't wish to redevelop the entire property. He likes, the charm and aesthetics of the neighborhood, and this really is the minimum variance that would make reasonable use of the home and structure. Development is constrained, as we talked about. It would be extended onto existing concrete drive, so it's about 180 square feet of additional space, which would be already on the concrete, on impervious surface, so you're not taking away some of that pervious surface that's so important. And I think that is something that we all are aware of. We are aware of the need for pervious surface, especially out here on the beaches and stormwater management, and so this would certainly be the most logical place to put it and have the least amount of impact. The granting of the variance would be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the code and not injurious to the public welfare. It's still going to be 40 feet from the edge of pavement. The common line of sight would not be interfered with, as you all saw on that curve. It's not going to interfere with any visibility. And the neighbor to the east, as I mentioned, has provided a letter of no objection. On October 17th, the Board of Adjustment unanimously recommended approval of this case, and we would respectfully request your approval. I'm here if you have any questions. I also have the property owner, Earl Wertheim, is with me, so if there's anything I can't answer, I'm sure he can.
Any questions?
So I understand that this is all through no action of the owner, except that the owner bought the property this way, right?
Yes, it was constructed when we bought it.
The owner knew what size car the owner had when they bought it and how big the garage was, correct?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what the need is from a, I mean, I totally see spatially why one would want to, but I'm not seeing a big hardship or a special situation.
Sure. Well, I think that there is a special situation in the fact that it is an unusual shaped lot in the buildable area, just is not a lot. You know, the criteria for your variance is not whether or not, you know, the property owner bought it and knew how it was currently developed. I think that you look at the requirements in your code and you see that this property, I think, does meet all those qualifications, and it is an unusual circumstance, and I think it does meet the requirements.
Denise, Jan, any questions for the applicant? I don't have any questions. I don't have any either. Any other questions? Jude, anything else you want to ask?
No. Inasmuch as the applicant's counsel has spoken to your criteria, I do want to make clear what the criteria are. They are set forth in 110.101. Sub B, sub 1, the criteria, and they are items A through F. Item A is special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. Item B, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Item C, granting the variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by subpart B, that's your land development code when it says subpart B, to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. Item D, literal interpretation of the provisions of subpart B would deprive other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of subpart B and would work unnecessary and undue hardship upon the applicant. Item E, the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, structure, or building. And item F, the granting of the variance will be in harmony and with the general intent and purpose of subpart B, again, the land development code. And such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or be otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. This is not in any way intended to sway your analysis in either direction, but simply to remind you of the criteria before you.
If I'm not hearing any more questions from the commission, Hetty, do you want to add anything?
I just would say that we did look at different ways you could add on for a garage. And basically what it is you're looking at this drawing on the right side, it's too close to the line. And on the left side, you've got bedrooms and windows, so you can't have egress if you try to put a garage there. So we did look at different options.
Any questions for Hetty before I go back to the applicant? And I will go. Do you have anything else to say before I go out to the public?
No,
and I will bring. Okay, thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this agenda item? Please come forward. John, come up.
I need to get sworn in. So I understand that, Lord.
One demerit.
Okay, John.
Take it from you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard. I lived on 12th Avenue there. I've been by this property a bunch of times. I lived there 7 years. I don't have any issue with extending the garage. There's plenty of property there. What I have issue with and I'm not sure, it looks like it's been totally overlooked, is the height of the roof line that is totally out of character with the rest of the house and the rest of any other houses, you know, in that area. And furthermore, if you dig way down in the package, which I did earlier today, it looks like there's a full-size loft above that garage that extends way back into the house, and I'm just wondering, you know, what part of that is a garage and what's gonna happen to that property, or what's that gonna be used for? And why that roof line has to be so high. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this agenda item? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment. I'm going to ask the applicant to come back up. And you can address any questions that you'd like. Sure.
I couldn't hear a lot of what he said, but he said something about the roof and...
Sorry, sir, I know you're the applicant. If you could just state your name and address.
Earl Wertheim. I'm the guy that applying for this, 320 12th Avenue.
Thank you, and the witness has been sworn. You can continue, sir.
As far as the roof line is concerned, 3/4 of the houses around 12th Avenue are 2 and 3 stories high, that any of the ones that have been rebuilt. All I'm trying to do is get a little bit of storage space above the garage. And yeah, there you go. So it's going to have the same colors, the same roof, everything is going to be the same. And it's not, as it stands there, it's not higher than my neighbor to the right of me. And he's already okayed it because he won't even be able to see it. In fact, most people won't be able to see it. It kind of disappears. As far as the hardship is concerned, I can't get my car in the garage. It's too small. It was built in the 50s, and it's not built for cars that we have nowadays. The only thing I can fit in there is my golf cart. So I'm just looking for space. I'm not looking to, you know, do anything out of the ordinary. I just need a little bit of space to put my car in the garage.
Is there any other comments that you want to make yourself for the applicant?
No, thank you. I think we've addressed them.
Okay. Yes.
I was gonna say, the building height's within the code, I mean,
Right,
there's no issues on that. And I think that's a little weird perspective on that one picture too. But I mean, it's basically gonna be storage up there.
Okay, with the public hearing closed, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request
I'll second that.
for BOA case 2023-08.
Thank you. And a second?
I will second that
Do you have any comments on the motion, Lane?
No, it is a pie-shaped lot. I do see it. I don't see, the curb appeal is still going to remain, especially when you compare it to the other ones. As Hattie put it, the height of the building does conform to the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay, any questions from the second?
No.
Comments?
Or comments, excuse me. Lauren, would you like to call the roll?
Mayor, before she calls roll, did any of the other commissioners have any final
anything that
comments
you'd
or
like to say?
findings?
No. I thought I was going to get away with that. Okay, Lauren, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Wilson?
I vote to approve.
Commissioner Houseburg?
Yes.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bond?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Good luck. We will now move on to 6B, ordinance number 2023-07, which is a first reading. Randy, would you read? Or
So we'll be beginning with ordinance number 2023-07, Madam Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan map of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida by a small-scale land use amendment to the future land use map by reclassifying land from residential office retail, ROR, to commercial general temporary lodging density 50, business district triangle CG TLD 50 BDT for the property located at 401 2nd Street, providing for approval of a corresponding planned unit development agreement for temporary lodging and providing for an effective date. It's been a first reading of ordinance 2023-07 by title only. Before we begin, while this matter is related to the next matter on the agenda, items B and C, This is independent from the planned unit development ordinance. What you have before you, just to be very clear again, especially because we have a new commissioner, we just went through a quasi-judicial hearing where there was specific criteria. This is a legislative hearing where you have policy-making powers, and you have the ability, as this is a planning document, to determine if this is an appropriate, necessary, or whatever other qualification you wish to give ordinance to adopt. This is to change the comprehensive plan, and again, this is a little more exposition just because ordinarily I would have had an opportunity to train you, so I want to make sure I give you a little more context. The comprehensive plan for a city is like its constitution that binds all land development. Part of the comprehensive plan, which usually has policies and objectives for different land use designations, is a future land use map. It says this is how we envision this property will be used. You'll have different zoning classifications as part of your ordinance, but this is part of the comprehensive plan. And as the city's commission, you have the ability to amend the comprehensive plan, and that's what is before you. The second hearing we will have, and I will introduce it when we get there, is on an ordinance for a planned unit development, and that is quasi-judicial, just like you had there. We need not get into that because we are first here on the future land use map. Before we begin on the presentation or staffing on this, is there anything any commissioners wish to add, inquire, or state?
I will, having heard this and knowing that this property is given my proximity to the property, I live across the street, and I want to assure that there will be a fair proceeding and impartial, I'm going to abstain on both B and C and avoid the appearance of any voting conflict.
So the mayor is recusing or abstaining based on the concerns of Chapter 112 and Chapter 286 relative to fair and impartial proceedings and the appearances and conflicts. With the mayor abstaining from the proceeding, that means the vice mayor will be presiding over this. Vice Mayor Bond, congratulations on your honor.
Good evening, everyone.
So Vice Mayor Bond, and for those who are unfamiliar, it is uncommon that a legislator recuse themselves from proceedings. There are specific limitations on doing so, and so in doing that, one of the advices of prudence, you will not find it in the law, but as a matter of prudence, is that the official remove themselves from the proceeding to avoid any further implication that they are involving themselves in a proceeding which, or unduly affecting the proceedings. So with that, Mayor Commissioner Kennedy will resume the hearing as soon as we conclude these two proceedings. So with that, this is a legislative hearing, and I will turn to Hetty Harmon for a presentation on this matter. There's no need to be sworn in the legislator.
All right. Okay. All right. This is the.
Hetty, I'm sorry, one moment. Yeah. Folks, I know it may not seem like it, but the way the acoustics are in this room and otherwise, for us up here, when everybody's milling and talking to each other, it gets a little harder to hear, and it can be distracting. So if we can avoid conversations outside. And Hetty, thank you.
Okay, as you stated, this is a request to change the future land use from the residential office retail to commercial general temporary lodging density 50 business district triangle. This was a newer land use, I think, added about 10, 12 years ago to the comprehensive plan. It is a part of the future, part of the land use district would allow up to 50 units on this. And as we're reviewing this, we want to look at what is required in this land use district. This land use district is a little different in that it has specific requirements in it. As far as use characteristics, we can do temporary lodging, which this proposal does meet. It does meet the intensity. The floor area ratio, I think does meet that as well. And, the ISR, they do meet that as well. There are other standards that they do bring into this land use district, which does talk about design considerations. And they talk about building scale, that it has to be including the height, width, location, alignment, and spacing, and the building design, facade treatments, adjoining property uses and how it relates to those properties. And this is a little different than other land use districts, that they do talk about the design, you know, talking about height, talking about setbacks in this land use district. It's not guaranteed, but if you do meet these, you can get those specific land use requested. With that, I just wanted to go through a quick presentation here, and that this is the project site, and it would be, they're proposing the commercial general temporary lodging density 15. There's a survey of the site. Pretty much everybody knows what's out there right now. We've got the existing restaurant site. We've got the existing hotel with the parking lot, the other hotel and the hotel in the water park. We also have a west parking lot and then the north parking lot. And the proposed uses here, they propose to add 54 units where the restaurant site is, 38 units in the north parking lot, and 20 units in the west parking lot. Now, the building heights that are proposed in this area are, they vary within this area, and they range from 85 feet on the tall, the 54 unit building, down to, let's see, the 38 unit building is 57.6, and then the 20 unit building is 42 feet 9 inches. 2 of the 3 of these are above the 50 feet that's allowed in the business triangle district, which this area is also in, and that's the only way it would be able to get to the 50 feet is being in the business triangle. So kind of this land use district is interchangeable with some of the other districts that like the business triangle and the design aspects that is required. And with the proposed site plan, basically this is just the building footprints that they're proposing. Yeah, now these are the existing pictures of the site. This is driving out of town. And then these are some pictures that were supplied by the applicant showing the new proposed one building, but not the other buildings that are going into the other parking lots. And this is the 85-foot building. And as you can see, in our design guidelines, which we do talk about that it has to meet design criteria, the architect's a very flat square building. The facade here, it's not allowed to front on, we have to have some fenestration, not just a blank wall against the right-of-way on that. But as we don't really see what the other buildings are going to look like on the site. This is another picture they put together showing the 85-foot high building. And this is one of the front buildings, I think the 54-foot building on that. So with that, when we looked at this, I think the use is compatible with this proposed land use district, but there's a lot of aspects in the design considerations and the setbacks that are not met. As far as building height, some setbacks, blank walls, that type of thing. Yeah.
I think the next stage, if I'm not mistaken, Randy, is to ask the applicant if they would like to present any information to inform us.
Yes, that would be the most appropriate next step. I want to be very clear as to what we are hearing right now. As you have before you future land use map change. That change may be informed in part by potential property use proposals, but you are not presently voting on property use proposals or design specifications, only whether this designation is appropriate, and because it was stated in the staff report, I believe and again, as context for the newer commissioner, I believe the appropriate provision you're looking at when you're talking about this sort of legislative decision is in 110.802, which goes through some of your criteria, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But with that, the applicant or their agent may come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. I'm Robert Williams. I'm with Lewis, Longman & Walker, 100 2nd Avenue South in St. Petersburg, Suite 501. So we are here for the comprehensive plan amendment. Now, in fact, thank you very much, Hetty, for leaving it on this, Ms. Harmon, I should say. I apologize. I will tell you also, let me first by beginning that it's been very nice working with staff. We may not agree on everything, and Mr. Moore and I agree on a lot of stuff, but not everything. But it's been a great professional working relationship, and I do appreciate that. And I always want to publicly say that. And I will tell you this, I don't always say that when I'm in these types of hearings. So I did want to let you know that as well. So I'm here representing Jeff Kierlieber with Gulf Coast Limited Partnership, the Holiday Inn Harborside. I think we're all aware of what we're here to discuss this evening. I also have Robert Pergolesi with Gulf Coast Consulting, and they'll be able to, Mr. Pergolesi will present in a little bit as well some of the other items. So what we're really talking about here is a very unique area in your city. It's the Business Triangle. The Business Triangle, and quite frankly, the Holiday Inn Harborside is probably the largest single entity in the Business Triangle. And the function of your code is also very interesting to me as an attorney. My client hates when he hears his attorney say that something is very interesting to them because it usually turns into a problem. But I don't think we have that in this situation necessarily. But because in this particular case, the city has adopted a temporary lodging comprehensive plan category that is very specific to the Business Triangle. In fact, the only place where the temporary lodging category, the one that we're requesting today, can go in the city is right here, in the Business Triangle. It's the only place it can go. It can't go anyplace else. And the temporary lodging is just for transient rentals and those types of things that the city has. And so I just want to kind of focus us in on that. The other reason I requested, and thank Ms. Harmon for leaving it here, is that large tall building, the sides, they're not finished yet. That was a representation for simply height purposes. So you'll be able to see the scale and the height and those types of things. We fully understand that when we move forward into the development phase of this project, that there are architectural items that are going to need to be addressed, and that's all really a part of the PUD and the zoning portion of that we'll do, that we'll have those things and those obligations to make sure that we get those things right. We do not, so this wasn't intended to be an architectural rendering of what it's going to look like. It's simply the height. The other piece of this, you know, the Holiday Inn Harborside is really the primary driver down in the Business Triangle, and it continues to be a good neighbor to the city, and we want to continue to be a good neighbor to the city. And this request for a comprehensive plan would allow us to actually further review and have you further review as a commission what that zoning ultimately looked like. What's that project actually going to look like? We had in our mind of what we wanted to do, and quite frankly, what we came in with originally was exactly what the city approved previously in the last phase, with the tower on the other end of the property is the exact same thing as on this end of the property that is up here and displayed, and the buildings were basically the same. And so we scaled it to the water, away from Second, to make that scaling work that way. We heard loud and clear in our hearing a couple weeks ago that the height is really a stumbling block for this. I will kind of preview a little bit that when we move into the zoning phase, we are absolutely open to meeting the 50-foot height requirement if that's what we need to do. It's not trying to get around those types of things, and we really proposed a project that the city had previously approved. That's kind of the way Mr. Kyrieber and my client, and that's what we looked at it, that's what we wanted to do. That's what you wanted down here, we'll put it on the other end and we can move forward. If that's not the case, then that's fine. Long-winded way of telling you, we're flexible, okay? We want to make this project work. What you have where that building is located right now, that you see the tall building, that's where the Brewmaster Restaurant is. That building needs to be rehabbed. That building needs to be redeveloped. We cannot redevelop that building and do anything else with this project to bring it to its final phase and be completely finished unless we in fact move forward with this comprehensive plan amendment. Ms. Harmon's staff report does in fact seem to indicate that the existing density that's on this property exceeds the ROR category that we have right now that's been in place since comprehensive plan was enacted in the city. Now, the interesting piece of that, and there are a couple of different ways you can look at how to calculate the numbers, that at the time when the remainder of this project was built and constructed, the city did in fact execute a development agreement and indicated that no, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. What I do know is this, is that if there's a question of that now, then what we're asking to do is go ahead and implement the comprehensive plan category that the city imposed, or adopted I should say, for this piece of property, on this piece of property. Quite frankly, the residential office retail doesn't fit what is actually occurring there on this, specifically this portion of the business triangle. There's no residential, there's not going to be residential. There's really no office, and there's not going to be office, and there's not a lot of retail. There's some restaurants and those types of things. It's a resort, and that's what we want it to be. That's what we think it's good for in this specific section of this city, of where it's located, uniquely located. And so that's really our focus of moving it along those lines. And so a couple of other primary things, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Pertolizzi. Lawyers love to hear themselves speak, so I apologize for that as well. The development that's existing, I'll reiterate, was specifically found, that exists on the site was specifically found to meet the comprehensive plan when it was done. But the temporary lodging designation that the city made to accommodate development, this does in fact implement. This request would implement the vision that the city had when they, I guess 10 years or so, Ms. Harmon indicated, when the city adopted the temporary lodging designation. The current development occurred only after the city requested the applicant, the Holiday Inn Harborside, to actually increase the height of the building near the water. In fact, at that time, the first thing that came in, the first proposal was shorter buildings. And the city at that time, and we respect it, it's fine. They said, the city said, the city commission said, we would rather have a taller building back by the water. And so my client said, sure, we'll do that. That's what we want as a city, we're willing to do that. So fast forward to now, we come in with the same footprint, and the city commission has a different view, and it's a different end of the property, and we respect that as well. We're not quibbling over that piece of it. What we're looking at is going, if you'd rather not have it that tall, we respect that too. Let's figure out how to make that work. But the first step is in fact getting this done with this comprehensive plan amendment. Again, the only available comprehensive plan designation that fits in the business triangle for this property is the temporary lodging designation. If you adopt it, or when you adopt it, I will say, being a little more forceful as the advocate that I should be, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to adopt everything else that we request, or change the zoning a whole bunch, and those types of things. That zoning, which is the next hearing, and quite frankly, we would actually request that we kind of table that so that we can go through some iterations and those types of things with the PUD amendment. I think we've got some things that we do want to address there. and respond to some of the stuff that the Plan and Zone Board looked at, so that we can work through those issues and get the best product that we possibly can for the city. So again, we're very flexible on that. At this time, I would also want to let you reiterate again, we're willing, very willing to meet the height restrictions if that's the city's desire for us to do. If you want it taller near the water, we'll do that. If you'd like to have it 50 foot, we'll do the 50 foot. We've got those drawings. Literally, we're drawing lines on page now. That's actively something that we are doing now. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Pergolesi. He's got some planning things to discuss with you that he's much better suited to that tonight. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I've got some things.
If you've got something you wish to circulate, please, you can hand it over to Mr. Sharman and he'll get it and make sure it gets to the clerk.
Thank you.
Is that multiple copies that are to be circulated?
There are 10 copies.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Obviously, we want the 4 commissioners to have them.
Full grade school, take one and pass it down.
Thank you.
While they're working on passing on that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Robert Pergolesi. I'm an AICP certified planner, a professional transportation planner with Gulf Coast Consulting, and as you heard before, I'm a resident of the city. I prepared a planning report for this project, for the land use plan amendment as well as the PUD amendment, October 11th, and that was reviewed by city staff. As Mr. Williams mentioned, we really can't even get to the PUD unless we have the proper land use classification. So the land use classification of the CG TLD 50 BDT is imperative for us to even move forward with discussions on the design and the height of the actual PUD. So our land use plan amendment to CG TLD 50 BDT is a rather new category. At the Planning and Zoning Board hearing, Penny mentioned that that category was added to the city comprehensive plan about 10 years ago. I think it was 2013. You want to go to the land use map? The site, as you know, is located in the Business Triangle, uniquely situated along the Intracoastal Waterway, south of the Walsingham Bridge, which we know locally is Fifth Avenue. The amendment to the CG TLD 50 BDT is consistent with many policies of the comprehensive plan, and those were listed in my planning report, which was in your agenda package, specifically policies 1.2.4, 1.4.2, 1.4.3, 1.4.4, 1.4.8, 1.4.13, 1.5.2, 1.5.7, and 1.7.2. Now that's a mouthful, I know, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but there are some comp plan policies that are very important to note. And I'll read policy 1.4.8, that the CG TLD 50 BDT shall be located within the boundaries of the business district triangle and shall have an alternative maximum temporary lodging density of 50 units per acre. Policy 1.413. The land development regulations shall contain provisions which encourage the concentration or clustering of commercial activities within the commercial nodes, such as the Narrows, aka Business District Triangle, and along Gulf Boulevard. Policy 1.5.2 specifically states, the City of Indian Rocks Beach shall promote business and civic activities in the Narrows, aka Business Triangle District, and along Gulf Boulevard by encouraging redevelopment and revitalization of the area. Policy 1.5.7, the city will encourage the preservation and enhancement of working waterfronts and marinas. We have a marina, as you know, we've got a marina there, boat stop. And then finally, policy 1.7.2, in order to protect environmentally sensitive areas located east of Gulf Boulevard, the city shall continue to allow for cluster zoning or transfer of development rights to be consistent with planned unit development regulations. The PUD, as it sits before you today, and with the proposed amendments of the second case, item C, avoids any wetlands that are on the site. Any new development is going to occur in a parking lot or an existing building is. So we're preserving wetlands, preserving environmental open space. This property is the primary economic engine for the city by drawing families and tourists to the business triangle. It's the largest taxpayer in the city, and visitors will support local restaurants and business, many of which are within walking distance of this place. We did have some letters of support that were put in at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, and I had Mr. Williams hand out that lovely article that was written by Janet Long, County Commissioner, touting the benefits of the hotel bed tax. And, you know, what I would specifically state here from this article is that, as Commissioner Long states, is thanks to the hotel bed taxes our visitors pay on overnight stays, we are able to support not only the backbone of our tourism industry, our beaches, but also our local sports scene and economy. He was talking about the Rays Stadium too, because it can be used for both. Hotel bed tax funds must be assigned to projects that will support tourism. As stewards of these funds, we pride ourselves in identifying the best ways to reinvest these funds. That sand that we just got put out on the beach the last 2 weeks came from the hotel bed tax, and we're all grateful for it. This project, if we get the plan amendment and can move forward with the PUD, will generate thousands of dollars of hotel bed taxes, tens of thousands. I don't have an exact number, but would certainly help the city and the county out with hotel bed taxes. As a professional planner, when I look at the categories here on the city's land use map, and I think this laser pointer will work, right now it's ROR. It's colored purple. This shows the proposed, right, Eddie? Yeah. Okay. Everything else around it is pretty much commercial general, which is the red, and then you have some recreation open space, which is Chickasee Park. This is where we want our tourist lodging. It's a perfect location in close proximity to the restaurants and the retail shops in the business triangle. And I think many here, or many people who are opposed to having vacation rentals in residential neighborhoods would agree that this is the location where we want to have people come and vacation. Regarding the criteria in section 110.802 of the code, in the city staff report, you know, Hetty mentions that of the 8 criteria, we meet 8 of them. And there were 2 that you took issue with. One is conformance with the requirements of this code, which you're now talking about the land development code. And that's why we're a PUD. A PUD is a site plan controlled zoning district where you have alternate standards applied. Alternate height, alternate setbacks, alternate parking. That is approved by the City Commission after discussion with the applicant and staff. And then item 3, the amendment being consistent with goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. I read to you tonight several policies of the comprehensive plan that we're completely consistent with. In fact, it wants us to put this density here. In my opinion, if you can't see that this property is the proper location for this category in your land use plan, then I don't know why you would have the category in your land use plan. You might as well just get rid of it. This is a perfect location for that. I will also state that in the staff report for the land use plan amendment, page 4, when Hetty was going through criteria of coastal high hazard area criteria, there were 8 criteria. Item 6, she states that the proposed land use is compatible with the countywide plan and the city's comprehensive plan. And as she stated earlier, the use is a proper use for this location. In my professional opinion, this property should be CG TLD 50 BDT. This is a logical location for this category in our city, and I think your staff would agree with that. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Mr. Williams wants to summarize.
Where are the cars gonna go?
Excuse me?
Where are the cars gonna go?
Parking underneath the building.
Okay.
Okay. There's lots of. This is a design.
You're doing good. Go ahead, you're doing good.
Okay. Yeah. This is a design thing with the PUD, but right now in the surface parking lot, that's behind PJ's.
Yep.
Okay, between the defunct restaurant, there you go. Can you see this pointer? I'm so glad we got this thing, because we didn't have it last month in P&Z. Okay, a building's gonna go there. So right now, that surface parking lot, which you see is empty, there would be a building there with parking underneath the building, Commissioner. Okay, where this restaurant, that's the defunct Brewmaster, I think it's been defunct for 20 years. It's gotta go. There's gonna be a building there with parking underneath it, and then out here, the west parking lot, out along 2nd Street, there would be lower buildings, only 42 feet 9 inches in height, with parking underneath that. So all the parking would be provided on site, most of it underneath the building. Some surface lot would still exist.
Okay,
Did I answer your question?
it does.
Thanks.
I've kind of got another question to that, because I was reading this 380-page document this weekend, and I was reading the parking ratio was completely different. Where you're talking about parking cars, the way I read it is for every unit, there's 0.82 parking spots, and it's a 2-bedroom unit.
No, that is somewhat wrong.
Folks, if I may for a moment.
This is a design issue, right?
Yeah, I just want to clarify for a few reasons. First, this is a legislative decision about the land use designation and whether this is an appropriate land use designation.
Okay.
And while those questions are certainly salient towards the planned unit development proposal, especially where the applicant has already stated some anticipated flexibility in what that design may look like, or fluidity, however you choose to look at it. I don't know that it's appropriate for your land use decision to be confined to design specifications that have not been finalized. And so your charge right now really is, as it was discussed in 110.802, and for your benefit again, as I have a newer member, and forgive me, applicant, I just want to make sure that I get this into the record more clearly with the newer member, especially when you're looking at 110.802, and I am stalling because I had it open and now my tab is closed. Sorry, I've lost that, but there it is, under the Article 7 of the Plan Code. It's 110.802 sub A sub 1, and it says that you are to consider the following standards: conformance with the requirements of the code, which Mr. Pergolesi and staff have spoken to. The available uses to which the property may be put are appropriate to the property in question and are compatible with the existing and planned uses in the area. And when we say uses in this context, we mean permissible uses, not a specific proposal. Determination of appropriateness shall include consideration of, but not limited to, soil conditions, vegetative classifications, drainage, topography, potential flooding. The amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. 4, the amendment will not result in significant adverse impacts to the environment or historical resources. The amendment will not create an isolated district unrelated to the scale and character of adjoining future land use map designations. 6, the amendment will not adversely affect adjoining property values. 7, it will neither adversely impact nor exceed the capacity or the fiscal ability of the city to provide available public facilities, including transportation, water, sanitary sewer, stormwater drainage, recreation, solid waste disposal, and other similar public facilities. Compliance with the adopted level of service standards can be demonstrated if necessary. And the amendment shall provide for efficient and orderly development, considering the impact upon growth patterns and the cost to the city to provide public facilities. And that's not quasi-judicial, like it's a must. These are factors you should consider as you consider whether this is an appropriate land use designation.
Okay. So let me rephrase the question. I hear a lot about you mentioned several articles, point that you're in agreement with. You're using a document, and it's a document that is the land use. What document are you referring to?
It's the city's conference.
It's the city comprehensive plan. How old is that plan?
It's updated every 7 years.
Every 7 years, okay. So how old is this plan that we're referring to?
I don't know when the last year amendment occurred.
When this actual.
This actual plan, because when, and again, here I am kind of reading through, and I've mashed 138 pages, 100 pages.
This was, the latest update was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
But when this actually was added, this specific land use, I think it was 2010, 2011, around there. And the only reason we probably added it back then was because the county-wide plan, so we have to fall under Pinellas County as well, too.
Okay.
And if they update something, then we usually, follow suit.
So we followed suit in this incident 10 or 12 years ago?
Right.
Okay, so it's 10 or 12 years ago?
Yeah.
Is
When
that
we added this specific.
That's the document that we're referencing?
Well, it was updated 2 years ago.
Oh, but it was updated 2
Yeah.
years ago, okay. So, back to the agenda item 6D.
We're on 6B.
We are talking about changing the residential office retail, or ROR, as y'all stated, to a commercial general temp lodging density 50.
Correct.
Now, what that does is that then that designation allows for all of these items that you guys want. Does it allow for an 85-foot tall building?
No, not specifically.
Not specifically, but it allows for the conversation. Does the other zoning allow for that?
The current zoning would not allow for that contemplated intensity.
Okay.
And I defer to staff and the applicant's representations in that regard, but this is a predicate to the design proposal. It is, however, separate and distinct from the design proposal. The question that you're being asked in this hearing is whether the proposed temporary lodging designation, which is in your comprehensive plan, is an appropriate designation for this property. That's the question before.
And I'm basing that on facts that I'm finding out.
You're basing that on what is being presented to you this evening and the policies and objectives for the temporary lodging designation within your comprehensive plan. And you as a commissioner, if you don't have complete clarity on that, are free to ask both the applicant and staff on what that means.
Okay, so Hattie, I have two choices here. Correct? You and, yes or no? You and Greg have written a staff report. I'm reading it again. And it does add for certain comments on what happens and how this impacts our city. And this is why I asked how old this report is because I drive up and down Gulf Boulevard. I've sat in front of that area while the drawbridge is open. And the traffic impacts, I see traffic impacts. The study may not say it, but I live them. And that's one of my concerns. One of my concerns is we just had a conversation earlier tonight about beach renovation. We've had our citizens say we don't have beaches. And I'm thinking if I pass this particular, if I change the designation of this piece of property, I'm thinking, where am I going to put another 120 people on our beaches? Are they going to be climbing on our newly formed 10-foot, what did Don call it? Dune pods or whatever?
Dune boggles.
Dune boggles.
Yeah.
And those are my concerns. I want to work. I mean, right now I'm seeing a building that y'all are calling a restaurant. I call it a vacant building. I don't even think anything's in it. There are parking spots back there that were supposedly designated to the city years ago, and we still have to pay $20 or it's roped off by Holiday Inn.
I don't know that that's an entirely accurate statement as it relates to the
Well,
agreement.
well, as it relates to my experiences, but and these are my experiences. So I'm looking at it. I know development is good. I think it needs to be measured in the process, but I want to understand what I'm stepping into before I make a decision. And it sounds like this is a stair step that takes us to another level. And I'm gonna open up to the rest of the commission and let y'all talk. But I think
it's still, technically the applicant still has the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I certainly was,
It's gone a lot of places, it is the.
I was certainly not gonna interrupt you, because, and I will, if I could respond, and then I'll sum up, and then we'll be quiet.
Okay.
You should be concerned and ask the question, what's the traffic gonna be? Okay? And when we get to the PUD phase and the PUD amendment, we've looked at traffic and we can discuss that. That's really the most, I was up here tackling Mr. Pergolesi about the same time that Mr. Moore was kind of tackling you as well. Because this is the first part. And I guess the best way I could really say it is right now we're trying to set the table. We don't know what's for dinner yet, okay? That's kind of where I look at this and see it. We cannot, based on the analysis that staff has put together, Ms. Harmon, is that we wouldn't really be able to redevelop the old Brewmaster Restaurant, that vacant building, unless we get this comprehensive plan amendment changed because of the limitations that we have on that. So we're really constrained. We won't be able to do anything with those parking lots or do anything at all unless we get this thing moved forward to at least set the stage and then talk about what are we going to do. And the quite frankly, the question on parking, we most certainly are going to have parking. And it will be, no matter what happens, okay, it'll be a portion of it will be surface, a portion of it will be under the building, and some of it will be surface on top of building, in between stuff. So there's a mix of things that will very, very likely occur, but that really comes in that PUD amendment phase. I guess the other thing that I would like to leave you with is that this may be the most compatible place. It is the only place in the city to put this category. This category, the temporary lodging designation must go in the business triangle. And this is the only place that it can go. That's it. And the ROR category simply doesn't fit. It hasn't fit for a while. And I don't know why the city, I'm not going to speak for the policymakers at the time, of why we came up with the temporary lodging designation. It may have been to phase out the ROR. I'm certainly all think we're sitting here wishing that we had in fact designated at the time when that was adopted, but it wasn't, okay? And so we're here now looking at this going, okay, we know we need to redevelop, we know we need to do some other things. And the redevelopment of the Brewmaster Restaurant, that's, I mean, I don't mean to presume anything, I think that's an easy one. That has to happen. I mean, it can't remain in the way that it is. And we need to do something with that. And we want to do something with that. But the only way we can get there is to go ahead and put the designation on that the city decided was the right designation for this property. The PUD, where the parking goes, what the traffic is, what the architectural stuff is going to look like, how many windows are going to be on. That's PD and development stuff. We will absolutely meet those things. I mean, we know we've got to meet those things. So it's not about avoiding that. It's about let's set the stage. I hesitate to ask. I'm available for any question you might have.
Denise, do you have any questions?
I'm not against what you're trying to present here. I do think that something needs to happen with the restaurant, and that the only way you're going to be able to get that restaurant out of there is to change the land use on it. And that makes sense to me. But yeah, on the second part, we'll probably be in some arm wrestling competition.
Agreed.
Yeah.
If there aren't any, I just want to be clear, at this point, we're in questions for the applicant rather than commissioner discourse and opinion. Are there any questions for the applicant?
I do have a question.
Yeah, I just want
Okay.
to, Mr.
Yes,
Mr. Vice Chair.
And I did notice, of course, that at the beginning of your presentation, you said that Harborside was a good neighbor to Indian Rocks Beach, which I thought was somewhat telling, because in fact, you're part of it, rather than next to it. So in fact, I think that was an interesting choice of words. So I imagine that you've looked extensively at design options for the current zoning, is that, and there was nothing?
To answer your question specifically, we did look at, based on what the density, intensity, and the RR designation is now, it's really not possible to do a whole bunch, if anything, okay? And so we're kind of stumped with that. And yes, the answer is, and Mr. Carlever's here, and I think he can answer that as well. He may have a follow-up. I would also indicate that, yes, we did look at other things. The reason the plan came in the way it came in, even though we're not talking about that quite yet, is because that's what was requested by the city and approved by the city when the other phase was built, the earlier phase. I mean, the original plan that came in years ago was to have the buildings much shorter, not tall near the water, and the city resoundingly said, nope, we want them taller in the water, shorter on Second. And so we were like, fine, we'll do that. And so fast forward to now, we came in with the same plan that was previously approved. Cities are entitled to decide you want to do something a little bit different. We're okay with that. We're not quibbling about that. And I do want to apologize if I misspoke. We think that the Holiday Inn Harborside has been a good neighbor to all of our neighbors in Indian Rocks Beach. I did not mean to imply whatsoever that we were not a part of Indian Rocks Beach. We're painfully aware that we are part of Indian Rocks Beach based on the length of this conversation today. Although, quite frankly, it's been a pleasure visiting with this on this. I didn't know whether Mr. Carlever had anything additional.
So, go ahead.
I'm Jeff Carlever. I was involved in the last development of the vacation condos around the water park area. And what Robert said is true. We had planned on building a lower one to start with, but at the end of the day, and you can imagine what it costs to design several hundred units. It's several $100,000. So you want to do the right thing the first time. And so we designed the lower one to start with. But there was a lot of anxiety over the height that we were going to be putting along 2nd Street. And at the time, if you look at our original development agreement, our right, if you would, was 62.5 feet. And the commission at that point was, hey, we're not going to have 62.5 feet on 2nd Street. And like what we designed and what the development agreement allows for this phase. And we got a big fight. And a mediator came in and said, hey, this is what the Holiday Inn has as a right to do it. And at the end, the commission said, even though we agree with the mediator, we're going to vote no on that. But we're going to vote to give you the alternative plan. And you can look in your minutes exactly what they did. And so they turned down what the mediator said was the right thing of our comprehensive plan having 62, or our development order having 62.5 feet for our height. And they said, we want it shorter on 2nd Street. And we said, well then where are the units going to go? Well, you got to put them on the water, because we don't care how high, they didn't care how high it was, but that's where you pick them up. So if you see the building that was built, we lopped off a floor and then part of the 2 floors on what's the south part of 2nd Street. And then we stacked those units as you went up from around the corner and then around to the water. It went from 5 stories to 8 stories. And that's where those units got stacked to. That was not my original plan. So then we still couldn't finish everything that was planned for that. And there was some anticipation of the city increasing density and changing stuff down the road, which eventually they have with this designation. And so, of course, when I'm coming back to design called the final phase, what do you think I did? I kept it high. I made a bookend on the north end of the beach, the exact height and the exact design that we have on the front of the south side of it.
What is the height of the south side?
The exact height. It's called,
What,
if
no,
you
what
go
is
back.
the, what is the height of the south side?
85.
Yeah, well, I just want to explain. Back then, you measured to the top of the roof, so if you look at your minutes way back then, it'll say 93 feet, okay? But by today's measurements, which are the midpoint, that becomes 85 feet in today's world. So I designed the tower on the north side to be 93 feet to the peak, 85 feet to the midpoint, which is how you measure things now, is to the midpoint. And so I did an exact bookend. And obviously we spent a lot of money doing that, because what else would I do? Because we went through a several year hassle with it. And so that's what we stuck with. Well, what the heck, this is what we did to begin with. So, but if now the thing is, hey, it's got to be 50 feet over the crown of the road, whatever the measuring point is, we can do an alternative plan again. Matter of fact, we're doing an alternative plan. Because, you know, Hetty and I have been going, you know, back and forth with getting this thing right for a couple of years now, right? And she's been very accommodating, and I think I've been responsive, we've been back and forth, but we've always disagreed. And she said, you know, hey, we don't have a problem with what you're doing. You gotta remember, this thing was originally designed, Hamlin's Landing, if many of you were here back then. Hamlin's Landing was built as condominiums, which was gonna be residential. It had 10 offices, which had the O part of the ROR, and then they were gonna have retail shops and things on the first floor, ROR. That's how they got that designation to start with. That was a total fizzle, that was a total flop. We bought it, and the city was thrilled that we came in and made it transient rental. We converted the condos, we wiped out the condominium, we converted the condos to transient rental. That's all they've ever been. They'll never be residential. And we then did the kids' pool play area, water park, whatever you want to call it, and we built the vacation condos around it. And if you look at our designation in our book for that, it's not residential, it never will be residential, it has to be transient unit, which falls exactly in the designation that they made the entire business triangle. If we're not more than half the business triangle, we gotta be darn close. And we've always been, since the thing has been operating out of bankruptcy, which was from day one, it's always been transient rental. So of course, the transient rental designation, somebody had to have us in mind. We're the biggest one there, and that's what we do. So now we find ourselves, okay, now we're ready for the next one, and we get an ROR designation. We don't have residential, we don't have office, we don't have retail, if you want, unless you want to count our restaurants. So of course, this is our designation, and I think if you talk to Hetty or other people in the city, nobody has a problem with that. The problem with Hetty primarily, and I'm sure the staff that was guiding her, is, hey, the height's out of whack. And from my standpoint, I'm like, the height's what you made me do last time. Of course, this is what I'm going to do. And then when we got to the meeting in October, one of the gentlemen there was looking it up, and he said, well, hey, this doesn't, you don't have windows on the side, and that's not what this is. That was a Photoshop picture just to show the height was the same as the other one. That's all it was set to do, but the design is the exact building that's there. If there's side windows or if there's design or whatever, it's going to be the same thing. So then, as all this evolved, what we finally came to realize is that, look, let's split this in half for now. Let's get the designation where it always should be. From the time I came out of bankruptcy, it was never residential, it was never office, it was never retail. And transient rental from day one, it's the biggest transient rental in the business triangle. And the city saw fit X number of years ago to make the only transient rental thing that they've got here in the business triangle.
Yeah.
So,
So give them an inch.
right, yeah, so, okay. So here we are. We're just trying to take the first step, and then we can get back to whoever we have to talk to or whatever and say, okay, you want me to do the second alternative plan? I'm happy to do it. I was happy to do it the first time, I'll be happy to do it the second time. Turns out, even though he's a little older, I got the same architect and the same, guys that did Hamlin's Landing from day one. And it will be easy for us to do if that's the end all, if that's what it's gonna take. So all we're really asking right now is recognize what it's always been. That's the designation that's before us. We need to be that designation before we can get to the design and the height and the other stuff. But I'm just telling you, straight out, if that's a deal breaker, it can't be that height, the height I was made to do the last time, I got no problem with that. I have no problem making it higher.
Okay.
So, okay.
No, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When you got approval to do the new design with the larger, with the higher elevation along the waterfront, went through all those meetings, obviously a bit before my time. What was your intended use of those 3 other lots? I mean, then, what did you want to do then?
Same thing, eventually more of the same.
But did you present that at the time as like, this is all part of this master plan to build this whole thing out?
Well, we didn't know what the density was going to be, or how things would fit, or how it would lay out, or, again, what the height would be, or whatever it's going to be. But we had additional units allowed in the phase 2 that we were not allowed to do because of where they were at the time. And the general comment was, okay, that's going to have to wait till another time. Robert was our attorney back then in 2006. And so...
And that was how many units?
That was another 20 with lockoffs, so call those 40.
And now you want about 100?
Pardon?
Okay, sorry,
Yeah, so,
what changed?
Nothing changed.
Well, when you initially planned it, was ROR allowing you to do all this?
No.
Well, sure, because everything you look at with the minutes or whatever the city did, they would say, we comply with we're in compliance with the code, we're in compliance with, we got approval to do everything we did.
It wasn't transit.
For clarity, the land use designation sought tonight did not exist 20 years ago during that process. Just for clarity in the record.
Thank you.
20 years.
Can you repeat that, Randy? It's hard to get
Yeah,
picture as
please.
well.
Sure. The transient designation sought this evening in these proceedings was not a land use designation in the city's comprehensive plan 20 years ago when those proposals that are being discussed were proposed. The staff's testimony and the applicant's statements tonight made clear that the designation that they seek tonight was put in place after that development. Applicant, though I'm not trying to characterize, and you are free to characterize, is saying, given that change since the adoption, we think this is the best suited future land use map designation for this property. Please give it to us. That is the nature of the hearing this evening.
What was it at the time?
ROR.
ROR.
That is the designation that this property is in.
Actually, and when it was, I don't know what happened back then, but when it was ROR, that was 15 units per acre. I don't know what happened. But now it's really, what's built out now with all the total acres is 30 units per acre.
And that is the product of various proceedings that long predate how we're here at this point. The point that you're considering at this moment is whether the future land use map designation sought is appropriate for the parcel. And I know I sound redundant, the law is nothing if that. It's my job to make sure you know what we're doing procedurally so that we can proceed. If there aren't any other questions of the applicant, my recommendation to the Vice Mayor Chair would be that we go to public comment on the future land use map designation.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions before public comment?
No, let's start.
All right, let's do the public comments. Would anyone like to speak about this matter?
as each of you come to the mic, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Beth McMullen. I live at 481 Harbor Drive South.
Hi, Beth.
In 2014, 2015, Harborside received an additional 100 units. I believe the total at that point was 187 units. That does not equate to people. That equates to units, of which some of them are 2-bedroom. I'm not really sure exactly how many of the 187, what that equates to the amount of people. But what they are proposing, I see units, again, lots of them. But I don't see what that equates to the amount of people that they intend to bring to this very small commercial district in this 3-mile-long small island on very minimal beaches, and that really concerns me. We are losing more and more retail up and down our beaches. We are busting at the seams with short-term rentals, transient rentals, and yet we're losing more and more ability to have restaurants or retail shops. So we're just being packed in with just a bunch of people, making it harder and harder to get into the restaurants, losing restaurants like the Donut Shop to more short-term rentals, to more transient lodging. And we're busting at the seams at this point. The traffic is a concern up and down Gulf Boulevard. And I don't necessarily agree with the police when they say their report. I've been driving those beaches for 31 years, Gulf Boulevard, and I see how many more people are driving drunk. It's just bringing in more and more problems. What we need is to continue to have more areas to put retail, more restaurants. I went to this Hamlin's Landing when it was first developed. I lived in Clearwater, and all of us came to this to shop. It has one of the best bathing suit stores in Clearwater Beach, moved here. So it does work, except it was a different time back then. Indian Rocks Beach was not found. It wasn't popular. 10 years ago, when we were so grateful to finally get this building with the bed tax, this town wasn't the same. And we understand that the bed tax has paid for our sports that we have now. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were being timed. Yes, I am being timed. Anyway, the transient rental the taxes have provided us with so many things. Apparently, we've been very successful at that. I'm more concerned with the amount of people that this is bringing to this community, and I disagree with it.
Thank you, Beth.
Sorry.
For clarity, address one thing. The comment that was made about a change in the approved plan in 2014 did not happen. The comment that was made, where they said, the speaker made the comment that there was a change in the plan in 2014, that did not happen. The plan that they're operating on was approved in 2002.
2002.
And it was finished around.
And what they did was, throughout the years, they did different construction projects on the site to keep their permits valid, which is done. But I just want to make clear that nothing changed in 2014. This goes back to they did like an updated, amended, revised development agreement that was in 2002. And by the way, I got here in 2013, so.
Hi there.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Kelly Sistrick. I live at 448 Harbor Drive South. First, I want to mention that the Planning and Zoning Board unanimously flunked this proposal, and we have a lot of smart people on our P&Z board. The comprehensive plan change that's being requested as part of this ordinance is only Part A of the request. Part B is the PUD request. My understanding is that if they would limit the height to 50 foot, and reduce the density so that it wasn't 50 units per acre, that they could probably apply for a PUD and get this done. And IRB has a very generous planned unit development ordinance, but this request is asking for 54 feet on some of the buildings, and it doesn't comply with their height. Because some of the units they want 54 feet. So density at 50 units per acre is more like Clearwater. It's not consistent with Indian Rocks Beach. So therefore, the applicant needs to change the future land use by amending our city's comprehensive plan. And I don't think that should be granted, just like the P&Z board didn't think it should be granted. I'd ask you to shoot down this proposal and ask the applicant to look at this again. Reduce the height, reduce the density from 50 units per acre to 30, and go for a PUD. And you know, that old restaurant at the end is pretty old. Maybe they should be knocking that down and knocking the whole thing down and going up on the water side. I don't know why they need to go along 2nd Street to get this done. Before granting anything to the applicant, I think the city needs to address the situation of those 16 to 18 parking spots that the city was granted along 2nd Street years ago. We have signs on the inside of the Holiday Inn lot that say it's city parking, but you can't get in there because there's 2 entrances to the Holiday Inn. The one on the north side is roped off, so residents and other members of the public can't get in there to park in there. I parked along 2nd Street, I'm sorry, 2nd Street, during the Taste of IRB last week, and I could see that some of those spaces were open, and the Holiday Inn had signs, $20 for parking. So you had to go in the main entrance and pay $20, and then you would see those spaces that had the City of Indian Rocks Beach parking signage on the inside of the lot. But you can't see them from 2nd Street. You can only see them once you get in there. So why don't we have access to those parking spaces that were already granted to us? So I would just ask that you kick this back out and let the Holiday Inn reconsider this proposal and come back to you with something that's a lot more reasonable, and they could do a lot with the existing PUD ordinance since it was expanded in 2018. Thank you.
Recognizing this is not PUD part of the meeting, would you like me to address the 18 spaces now or later?
Let's do it later.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, RB.
Hey guys, RB Johnson, 1206 Beach Trail. So it looks like I'm probably the only person in this room, other than Dean, who was in official capacity 20 odd years ago when this last came before the City Commission for the extension of planned unit development for this property. And I can guarantee you at that time, during our discussions at the commission level and with the administration and staff and everything else, that if we thought that years in the future there'd be discussion of a massive extension on this property as far as density and intensity and everything else, we'd be astonished, because at the time this was all in the under the rubric that there were 3 stages of development, 3 phases for the Holiday Inn, and the 3rd phase was the one at the south end where you have the building now that goes from 4 floors with parking, goes up to 7 floors of parking on the water side. There wasn't any thought or any discussion that there was going to be future phases with increased density on other parking lots, or that the old brewmaster's building would, through benign neglect over the years, fall apart, and then the argument would be made that, well, we can't do anything with it now, there has to be torn down, and we got to build a condo tower there. None of that was in our heads at the time. At the time, we thought this was it. This was essentially what the final design of this property and how it was going to play out was going to be. Right now, what we have here, it seems to be, in the viewpoint of the owners of a property, a land use looking for a place to land just because it's available someplace there in our comp plan. That's like, well, you know what? This needs to be used someplace, and this is the logical place to put it, and it would be to our benefit because it would greatly increase the density. And by the way, the highest density in the city anywhere is on the west side of Gulf Boulevard. And the CT district, we're talking 30 units an acre, which is a lot for us out here. Now we're talking 50 units an acre, in a confined area with water on one side, streets that aren't very wide on all other sides, where we already have a lot of traffic and it's hard to move around, and this is where we want to increase to 50 units an acre. You know, I just kind of, you know, just because we have a really large hammer that's available to us in the comp plan doesn't mean it needs to be used and used in an inappropriate place. And I just like to say, have we learned anything out here in Barrier Islands after Hurricane Ian blew through Fort Myers Beach and all the controversy we were hearing down there about, oh, well, they're still talking about increasing density out there? It's unbelievable they even thought of this. This is way beyond anything the commission was thinking about years ago. In other words, it's practically a doubling of the size of development on this property. We never saw it coming, but you all are seeing it right now. So I just encourage you to reconsider the notion of changing the land use to something that basically opens the door to a much larger development than we've ever considered or contemplated in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be quick.
Mary Wilkerson, 490 Harbor Drive North. Agree with everything RB said and Kelly said. One thing I hope that you can consider, in these 112 units, I'm assuming those are not one-person studio units, right? Those are going to be 2-3 bedrooms, minimum 500-600 people. If they have guests, 800 people. They go to the beach. I know that because we own property on the beach outside, so we see the streaming. We see the streaming. Jim Labadie was alluding to that as well. So the people that have historic cottages, low density, play by the rules type thing, been here a long time, and then now we're considering having 700-800 people streaming through. And again, that's just with 112, not adding all the other stuff. So please consider that. I know Randy, you're shaking your head.
I'm not shaking your head.
Okay, you're itching. No,
I have no opinion on
okay,
this proceeding. I wanna
okay.
be
But just please consider that. The human wave of the beach that is getting smaller and smaller, and we're packing more people into it, and now you're talking about adding several hundred more people. Thank you. Consideration.
Good evening. Kathleen Major, 439 Harbor Drive South, 28 years. I'd like to begin by thanking you all for your service. In this very room, in 2004, November, I waited online and in this room for a total of 5 hours to vote in an election in a not highly populated city. The reason I believe for that was there were 23 city charter amendments that time. Only 2 of which I remember. One was voting for or against building a Publix on Gulf Boulevard in the 24th Avenue region. Many of you may remember that. And another one was restricting the heights of new construction, differences for residential and the business district. I don't know what those restrictions were. I have some vague remembrance, but I won't say because I don't know that I'm accurate. That being said, those were voted into law to the best of my knowledge. Do those laws still exist? Have they been overturned? When I asked a previous commissioner when the new high-rise building on 2nd Street was built, how it was allowed to be that high, I was told, I didn't check it out, that the permits to build that structure were pulled before the voting in 2004. I cannot verify that, so I'm not going to attest to that. These are just things I want to put forward for contemplation and perhaps investigation. What happened to the laws, because we all know there's no Publix on Gulf Boulevard. Whether there will be in the future, I don't know where they'll put it, but nonetheless, there is no Publix. There are buildings that are going up higher than what I believe was voted in at that time. So I guess my question, and many others have shared the questions, do those height restrictions that were allegedly voted into law still exist, and are they being complied with? Again, thank you for your service, and thank everyone for their time.
Bill Snyder, 425 18th Avenue. I don't know if anybody's been to the beach lately, but it's so small that people are actually putting tents on top of the dunes because there's not enough room now. Bring more people in. It's going to be a problem. I don't know if anybody tries to get off the beach on the weekend, but I've had people, I live at 18th Avenue, and the traffic has been backed up to 18th Avenue from Walsingham Road. There's just no more room for cars, no room for people. So we need to not let this happen, please. Thank you.
Nancy Obarski, 708 Beach Trail. Not that I don't have some of the same concerns that some of the people have here with traffic and density and everything else. But my question is, I know RV was up here when that comprehensive plan was adopted, I'm assuming. So they created that land use category. Obviously, they must have had some reason to create that. And I guess my question is, if you don't let this man use it there, you might as well take it out of the comp plan and make sure that for future it's taken out of the comp plan, because obviously somebody put it in there for a reason. And I think we all know what happened the last time with the Holiday Inn. It was a long litigation, and the Holiday Inn built what you allowed them to build. I mean, they're a big contributor to our economy here, and I think there again, if you're going to turn them down, take that designation out of the comp plan entirely, because where are you going to put it? I mean, it's just a useless piece of information in the comp plan. So, thank you.
Beth Flynn, 914 Harbor House Drive. This is the first time I've attended this type of hearing. It's kind of confusing from a layperson's perspective. I'm going to focus on the question about what the right land use is for it. And I guess my concern is the density and the impact to the nature and environment. So we had it as our ROI, which is residential, office, or retail, what I would consider mixed use. With the Florida Pinellas survey we did a couple years back, they recommended more mixed-use properties. So if ROR is the equivalent of mixed use, I would say it should be mixed use and get back some of what Indian Rocks Beach used to have, allowing for some development, maybe residential, so we can bring back some more renters who lost their places due to short-term rentals, and make it more of a community feel. Still gives the owner a chance to make some money, potentially not as much as it would be with this type of development, but getting back to more of a mixed-use environment.
John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard. I've been around here and around the county for 70 some odd years. I noticed this is Hamlin's Landing. I still call that area Hamlin's Landing. It was interesting to hear what kind of deal was made to slide 85 or 90 feet down on the south end, because when it happened, as I recall, I had just gotten back to Indian Rocks, and they said it was a done deal. I couldn't do anything about it. When it came to the commission, it was always some deal that had already been cooked up. So that's how, it was interesting to hear that. But now it looks like they're trying to slide it down on the north end and use the same thing. And as I recall, Blumgardner's, Marker 34, whatever you want to call that restaurant, wasn't even Holiday Inn property when all that happened. Because I remember walking out of the end of the Holiday Inn, and there was a big sign that said, "No trespassing, this is not part of the Holiday Inn." So apparently they bought it, and now they want to put a big tower there. Something's going to happen. Whatever happens, I would say, stick to the height restrictions that we have in our codes. Every time we get one of these PUDs and something else goes on, the walk comes to my mind. We allow them to go from 43 feet to 47 feet, just so the developer could put vaulted ceilings in and sell the units for one night. So those kind of things seem to go all toward the developer. There's no way you want to put a building 7 or 8 stories in there that's 80 or 90 feet tall. If you look at, you're going to see that building in your face every time you drive on and off this island. And it'll be a reminder of what a mistake it was. So I urge the commission, regardless of what the zoning becomes, regardless of what happens to the project, stick with our existing laws and keep that thing down at 43 feet or 47 feet or 50 or whatever it is. Thank you.
Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, how are you all doing? I'm primarily here just to, I'm sorry, 408 Harbor Drive North, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida. Been a long time resident.
And your name, sir?
And it's Rick McFall.
Thank you.
So, current planning and zoning chairman. I just wanted to talk just a minute about exactly why the board that I chair came to the decision they came to. And it kind of speaks to some of the background. And the only reason why I bring this up, not to be redundant, but is there was a lot of talk about the PUD change that we had in 2018. And the purpose of that was basically to allow developers to come in and quasi-bend the rules a little bit so that properties that would not be feasible are potentially feasible if you were, as long as there was an architectural benefit or some other benefit to the city. That's where that PUD change came from back then, and that was the intent that we voted on, and what we intended to the commission. I think that's what the commission intended as well. The reason why we had problems with this was primarily because, number one, the traffic study was done in July of 2021. That was during COVID. We thought that should be updated. In the current plan, the 18 city parking spaces that were designated, of course, were very poorly marked out at the current time, essentially disappeared on the site plan. The building heights obviously were an issue, but that's more pertaining to a PUD. We were very problematic with the potential density as it relates to traffic, particularly around 4th Avenue. 4th Avenue southbound could cause a great deal of congestion trying to get onto Gulf Boulevard, as well as southbound traffic coming through from Walsingham southbound to try to turn into the project, because there's really no signage currently that designates that you could actually make the left turn there and into the property via 2nd Avenue. There was a lot of discussion about this as a project that would probably more be appropriate at the current density proposed, because both projects were presented to us at the same time, is more appropriate for Clearwater Beach as it stands. I welcome the fact that they're willing to work with that at the PUD level, but we're speaking right now particularly about this zoning change. And what the zoning change does, de facto pretty much says, is basically you're granting them the density right off the bat. You're giving them leverage to get whatever they want. So I just want to point that out from that standpoint. And feel free to have any questions if you want any, but that's why primarily we voted it down in a unanimous decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello again, John Fansteel, 448 Harbor Drive South. I agree completely with Rick on that. This ordinance opens the door to outrageous overdevelopment, and so please vote no on it. I agree, already has way too much overcrowding. When you go down to the intersections of Walsingham and Gulf Boulevard at times, it looks like the Serengeti, with the wildebeest just coming in crowds and crowds. It's so crowded, it's no longer the quaint town it used to be. And they want to add hundreds and hundreds of more people right at that intersection, right in that area, that small area, every week. There's too much traffic, we all know that too. And we've heard from them, we want what's best for the city. And what would be best for the city, of course, would be restaurants and long-term rentals for people who work in the city and for people who want to become permanent residents here. What they want instead is to pack as many transient lodgings as they can get away with. So keep it short, please vote no on this. This goes against everything residents in the city want. Thank you.
Anybody else? If nobody else wants to speak, then I suppose we'll close the public discussion. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Yes, Mayor, and at this point it would be for the commission to deliberate. I see that the applicant's representative is approaching. If the commission wishes to indulge any further comment from the applicant or staff, we certainly may do so.
It's fine with me. Aye.
And I will keep it brief, and I appreciate y'all bearing with us this evening. Let me reiterate. So one of the commenters indicated that we're looking to have a comprehensive plan designation, looking for a place. This is the only place that the temporary lodging designation can go. That's it. And in fact, temporary lodging is what this property houses. It's not that my client, we didn't make up this temporary lodging category. I'm sorry, Robert Williams again for the applicant.
If you can speak into the mic a little more, Robert.
Will do, I apologize. This is the only place that it can go. Another discussion point was that we've got this restaurant from benign neglect. We would like to redevelop it. And I appreciate Mr. Mims kind of helping keep the timeline straight. We appreciate that, because I think that's also important. If you recall back in the 08 and that era, when a lot of this stuff, the development was occurring, nobody knew exactly what the economy was going to do, and everybody was on the skids, and that drew into that as well. And so the real question is what's happened to now cause this? It's 20 years of passage of time in the economy and what the demand for certain products are. The only thing that's reasonably going to go on this property is temporary lodging in a restaurant. We're not going to have shops that people are going to visit here. That's been tried. That market's not there. It's just not going to occur realistically. We're simply responding to the environment that we have in front of us. Truly is exactly what we're doing. This comprehensive plan designation of temporary lodging, again, the only place it can go is in the business triangle, and this is basically the only property that it can go on. And it's fairly clear that the ROR designation is not appropriate any longer. It may have been at the time that designation was put on the property, but through passage of time and what's occurring out there day to day, this is clearly the right one. As far as traffic, as far as parking, as far as all of those other issues, those absolutely need to be addressed. That's part of the PUD phase. When you determine how much, in fact, development could occur with this designation. Otherwise, without the designation, this property remains in its current form and there's no path forward to do anything with it. And that's what we want to avoid. We would love to redevelop that restaurant into something. And we'd like to partner with the city to figure out exactly what that is.
Follow-up with a quick question, if I may. I've toured that restaurant empty a number of times, still in relatively good shape. Now you say that it has to be redeveloped. We can't use this space for anything else. The only thing it could be good for is restaurants and transients. We've got a restaurant right there, but you're not using it. So it suggests to me that the point isn't restaurants.
Well, of course not. And I don't mean, of course it's not. It's okay. All of it, all together. We do want to redevelop and put a restaurant there, but it also needs that resort to go along with it to make it survive and be a success. I mean, it is part of that market.
Some more units to fill the restaurant.
Certainly. Yeah. Absolutely. We're not dodging that fact whatsoever. Frankly, putting here what we're dealing with in the city with short-term rentals, this is where you want your short-term lodgers. You want them right here. You certainly don't want them in your neighborhoods based on all the evidence and testimony I've heard in earlier hearings. This is what this property is for. That's why the business triangle was made the business triangle.
I'll be honest, I haven't read all of the things because I didn't know I'd be sitting in this seat necessarily tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
But I did look through some of them. All of a sudden, I'm hearing restaurant. I hadn't seen restaurant or heard anything about restaurant until just now.
Can we put in a restaurant there?
There's no restaurant.
No.
Okay,
I
that's why I didn't
misspoke.
hear it.
I misspoke, and you are correct.
Jimmy Guan's is the. We have a restaurant there.
Yes. So
Well,
there is a
I-
restaurant there.
But I love Bruno.
Well, so, I will state, though, as we continue to tell you, that to redevelop the property at all, it was gonna require the comp plan amendment. This just was. Would require the temporary lodging designation. The issues of what's gonna go there, for the parking analysis and those things, and that gets into some very complicated territory on how you figure the parking analysis, and it is a part of the PUD amendment process, not part of the comprehensive planning process, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep those two things separate, we appreciate that.
One housekeeping matter.
Yes.
Per the city commission rules, duration of meetings, Rule 5, you need a motion and a majority vote from the commission to extend the meeting past 9:30.
Time is it?
9:25, Mr. Mayor.
We'd appreciate your consideration in passing this amendment, thank you.
Does anyone have a motion regarding ordinance number 2023-07? Or sorry.
Procedurally, I think it'd be more appropriate just to have the motion to extend the meeting so we can continue to do the city's business.
All right.
Is there
Is
such
there
a
a motion to
motion?
extend the meeting?
I'll make a motion to extend the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, the discussion concerning ordinance 2023-07 for the future land use map is before the commission.
We all
Well, it's like the land use map has to be revised before they can do anything.
Is that correct, Hetty? What can they do with the current designation?
Right.
Poor Lauren has to make the hearing minutes based on what we say, and she does that from a recording, and if we don't speak into the microphone, an already hard job is infinitely harder. So please just try to lean into the microphone.
Basically, right now, their land use district doesn't even match what's there. It's way below.
Right.
So even if we went to like the commercial area, like the rest of the business area, that's at 30 units per acre, and that's what they have right now on site, is 30 units. So to get anything more, they have to, change the land use.
But do we necessarily have to change it to the temporary?
That's our only other option.
Okay.
You don't have to, just so you're clarified, you don't have to give them the 50 units. That land use district is negotiated as part of the PUD. When you go into the PUD, that's when you negotiate everything that's out there. It doesn't give them carte blanche that they have 50 units per acre.
Thank you for that clarification.
It identifies the maximum intensity. It is not an entitlement that you must grant thereafter.
Okay, so if we leave everything status quo, the density stays at 30 units per acre.
Right.
And if we move into the other one, then we open this door to 50 units per acre.
If it met the qualifications that you approve.
If it met the qualifications that,
Qualification or restrictions.
we open the door though.
Right.
They then have that, and then they can start negotiating everything else.
Right.
Okay. And we've heard from our citizens who are talking about density. They don't want it. We see our beaches. They don't want it. I'll be candid with you. I go down to St. Petersburg, downtown, and residential office retail does work down there. I don't know what they do that's different, but we do restaurants. I see people walking and living in the city, and it does lend itself.
Which of course is why it was built into the plan.
Yeah.
Excuse me, so right now it's 30 units an acre for the entire property. And so, yeah.
That's
sorry.
yeah.
And that's been that way. So in fact, had they gone shorter on this, on the water side part, they'd have more opportunity elsewhere.
Well, technically no, because the ROR land use only allows 15 units per acre. Like I said,
Oh, of
I'm
course,
not
so
sure what happened.
so we're already way.
Yeah, I'm not sure
That's
what
right.
happened.
So what was,
They
one of
just
our-
did a PUD.
Yeah.
What was one of our citizens was talking about keeping the designation and them applying for a PUD?
You can't expand the
can't do that.
PUD. That's what happened. They first applied for the PUD, and I started reviewing the PUD, and I was like, wait a minute. This land use doesn't, you have to look at the future land use, and it didn't work. So that's where we got the second, application came in for land use change. You can't just do
To
a
clarify
PUD.
that, there seems to be, I'm sensing an implicit sense that somehow that was a manipulation. What they have on the property was legally held to be appropriate for that property through a series of proceedings. Again, it's a complex procedural history you can't just capture in a soundbite, but there was not some kind of manipulation that happened and we just didn't catch it. That was the result of legal, there were legal disputes between the parties, and ultimately what they built was what they were granted. So I just want to make that very clear for the record.
All right. Does anybody have anything else?
If there's nothing further, Mr. Vice Mayor, the appropriate action at this time would be for a motion on the ordinance, and that is ordinance 2023-07.
Does anybody have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the FLU ordinance number 2023-07.
There's a motion on the floor to deny. Is there, as the presiding officer, you're not in a position to...
No, I said, is there a
Oh,
second?
sorry, my apologies.
Who was asking?
Doing his job.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Motion on the floor is to deny the deny the passage of ordinance 2023-07 for a future land use map amendment for the property at 401 2nd Street. The motion made is in the negative, and so when the roll is called, I wish to be very clear for the 4 members voting that an aye is to deny the relief requested. So a yes is I am against this ordinance. A nay is I'm not against, or they're potentially in favor of the ordinance. So with that, unless there's any further comment, Madam Clerk would call the roll.
Commissioner Wilson?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Hosper?
No.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Vaughn?
No. Wait, hold on. Before I say no. If I say no, that's to not change.
No, the motion on
Okay,
the
so
motion
aye.
on the floor is to deny or defeat the ordinance pending. So an aye or yes vote is I am voting against this ordinance.
Okay.
A no vote is I am not voting against this ordinance. I don't wish to qualify anything beyond that. So the members who have voted thus far, 2 people, or rather, sorry, because I'm keeping track of it.
The affirmative, which is no.
Two people have voted in the affirmative, which is against passage of the ordinance. One has voted.
I will vote in the affirmative as well.
Okay. By your vote of 3-1, you have defeated ordinance 2023-07 for the small-scale future land use map designation. Procedurally, thank you folks. We can retain order. We still have business to do this evening. Given the failure of ordinance 2023-07, it's been stated time and again throughout these proceedings that it is a necessary predicate to the first reading of ordinance 2023-08. It would be my advice at this point that we pull item C from the agenda, as it cannot proceed in light of the result in item B. So is there any objection by the commission in that regard?
No.
Okay. With that, ordinance 2023-08 will not be heard. Ordinance 2023-07 failed 3-1. At this point, the manager is going to get the mayor. Vice Mayor, if you may pass the gavel back. That concludes the proceedings.
Cookie.
While the mayor resumes her seat, this may be, we're 3.5 hours into these proceedings. It may be appropriate to take a 5-minute comfort break if that's. Thank you. Resume our seats and to do the remaining ordinances. If you're going to have continuing conversations, if you could please just kindly move outside. Thank you.
No, I'm just going to finish up where we're going.
Hey, Dean, can you hire the air conditioner because everybody's freezing?
Okay.
Put me in charge, it might be another couple hours.
Look what happens when bonds are
Oh, it's 7 hours later.
I got all my homework done. I bet you did. I did, I got all my homework. Probably got it back.
Commissioner Vaughn.
No water.
Hi.
Hi.
You can come back, Commissioner Vaughn, so we can get started.
Senor Vaughn.
Oh, good. Just go.
All right. Any other legislative matters, Ms. Mayor?
No, not yet.
Yep, public hearings. Or other legislative matters, yeah.
Public legislative matters. Okay, we're back. Agenda item number 7, other legislative matters. Ordinance number 2023-06, the second reading, and this is on the operation of vessels. Randy, would you read?
Yes, happily, Madam Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to Section 74-63 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to the operation of vessels within the city's coastal waters in the Gulf of Mexico, providing for the incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to the city's code to establish a public bathing beach area, limited to manually propelled vessels only to conform to Florida statutes and administrative code, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading ordinance number 2023-06 by title only. And I believe Mr. Sharman will be providing the staff report, if any, on this.
All right, as indicated, it's the second final reading. Previously discussed with you all back in December of 2022, we passed ordinance 2022-07 designating a section of the coastal beach frontage as boating restricted. Subsequent to us passing that ordinance, the Florida Fish and Wildlife revisited our ordinance and indicated that we had to make some minor adjustments to our ordinance to be consistent with their administrative legal guidelines in relation to anchoring within that zone. This tax ordinance is for second reading.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? This is a second reading. It's been before us several times. Does anybody have any questions on this?
No.
Jan, did you understand all about this? Have you heard
Yes,
this
and I was
before?
here last meeting.
To hear about it. Okay, good. All right, with that, I'm looking for first I'm going to open up the public comment. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment, and I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion for
Motion to approve.
I'll second it then.
That would be
Ordinance number 2023-06, second reading.
Thank you. And we have a second. Any comments from the maker or the second?
None.
Anyone else like to make a comment on this? Hearing none, would you please call the roll, Lauren?
Commissioner Wilson?
I agree, I approve.
Commissioner Hausberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bond?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes, motion carries. We have agenda 8, item 8, work session items. We do not have any discussion. There are no discussion items. There is no other business. Is there a motion
To adjourn?
Second. All in favor? Aye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Aye.
Thank you.
I did.